Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Tuesday night. Glad you're here. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you. Please like and share, everybody. Would really appreciate that. Always looking for new subscribers. And for those of you that have subscribed, really appreciate that. If you'd like to support the channel, Cash App is there. Please gift our panelists this evening. We really appreciate that. A few things I wanted to sort of cover off on before we dive into tonight's topic. There is there's kind of a summary of some of the things that are facing the twice impeached, four-time indicted, sexually abusing, fraudster, insurrectionist, because the next week and a half is going to be very significant. We're going to learn a lot. We are still waiting for a decision by the D.C. Circuit in regards to presidential immunity. That's going to happen. That decision could come down any day. It's funny because we get antsy, waiting for things like this because, God, why can't they just make up their mind? But in court speak, they're actually on schedule. Really no big deal. The irony, though, to be honest, is that I still hear people on the right like talking about wanting to have immunity, and I don't think people understand. That's ugly. What's this one? It's better. I don't know. Wanting to have these are weird. I haven't even played with these before. That wasn't bad. Anyway, the immunity question regarding whether or not a president should have immunity. And I think people on the right that are clamoring for that don't realize what they're asking. No one should want that. We don't want the president to be like a king. Anyway, that decision's pending. We'll know more. Obviously, we're waiting. I think it's February the 8th that the Supreme Court's going to take up the question of 14th Amendment. Now, depending on who you talk to, it's funny because I have really gone back and forth on this. There's a really highly respected conservative judge. His name is Michael Luttig, J. Michael Luttig, Luttig, I think. Very well respected was on a short list at one point for Supreme Court justices. Is a very, very conservative judge, and he's the guy that's been saying that textually, according to the Constitution, that he should absolutely be disqualified from running. And he along with George Conway and a lot of other prominent conservative legal experts, analysts, whatever you want to call them, have all petitioned the court recently to say, disqualified based on the text. So we'll see. That's coming this week. We'll know more about that. The decision in Georgia, because there's some controversy that's swirling around Fani Willis. Don't know what's going to happen there. It doesn't seem like it's anything, but if there is, obviously she should be removed from the case. But that case is going to continue. Another district attorney will just pick up the case. So we'll see. That's going to happen too. And then I think the biggest one, and I think the one that really is under Trump's skin specifically, is anything that takes away his money. So we already know that he's down $88 million when it comes to E. Jean Carroll. And the way I was reading this, and please, if I'm wrong, attorneys that are in the chat, fact check me on this. If he decides to appeal this case, he's got to post bond. And if he does that, that means he has to post the entire amount of the settlement, which in this case was $88 million. So I'm not sure if that applies. So he can either pay her the $83 million, or it goes into receivership or somebody holds on to it until a decision of the appeals court is made. So we'll see. But the bigger one is Judge Engoron. That decision is supposed to come down tomorrow. That's the Trump fraud, the Trump organization and the Donald Trump family business fraud claim. $370 million is what Letitia James is asking for. Initially, it was $250. The number went to $370. We already know that as a matter of fact, that the Trump org has committed fraud. So that will continue, right? So the question is how much? Then the question is how much money does he have? $400 million is not walking around cash for most people. So we'll see. Thank you, Juliet. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. So lots to watch. This story kind of got me. I saw it reported a couple of different places. Amy Coney Barrett, Supreme Court Justice. Um, Her father, first of all, Amy was a member of this group called People of Praise. It's a secretive Christian sect. And they've had years of allegations of child abuse within their sect. I'll just read you the story. Survivors of alleged abuse inside People of Praise, a secretive Christian sect that counts Amy Coney Barrett as a member, are voicing concerns that the Supreme Court Justice's father, who was recently promoted to a new role, may seek to block information about the group's historic handling of sexual abuse becoming public. The story reads that her dad has been promoted to a position of prominence within the organization, and the allegations is that he is withholding information about the cover-up of the alleged allegations of sexual abuse. That's just a sitting Supreme Court justice who's a member of this secretive Christian sect. Those people, her in particular, were part of the reason why women's reproductive rights were taken away. Not a coincidence. So that brings us to our topic. I have talked about this before. I continue to hear just so much hatred towards women. We expect it from men. But I hear it more and more from women. There's a group on TikTok called Women for Trump, and I've been in some of their lives, and it's not a great place to be, quite frankly. And even the amount of hatred there, and just some of the things that other women say about other women is just ridiculous. We know that the Trump administration, I was reading this earlier, on day one, they're already working on not even legislation. They're working on a way that executive powers could enable a national abortion ban. So the plan would be then to circumvent Congress by going through some of the unitary executive things that are outlined in Project 2025. So once again, it's not. We have to remind ourselves that the decision regarding Roe didn't just impact abortion, but it was about privacy. That's what the entire thing was about, right? So, gentlemen, I think it's time for us to step up, right? Why not? Why not? Why can't vasectomies be mandatory? We could talk about the age. We could talk about when. We could talk about what that would look like. Should it be at puberty age? And then it goes into a point where you can prove that you're responsible, that you can prove that you're going to be, pay child support or whatever that would look like. And at that point, you can get the procedure reversed. It's a thought, right? It's a thought. So I'm curious. I would like to speak to people who are staunchly pro-life this evening, and see what your thoughts are on this. I have a feeling people on the left would be in support. Hard to say, but I can't imagine they wouldn't be. I am. I've been snipped. I'm done. But I don't think there's a reason why we shouldn't be able to have that conversation, because the burden to carry is on women, but the pregnancy wouldn't happen without men. It seems like men today do not want to have that level of responsibility. Not all men, obviously. But when you hear some of the things that we hear, I am absolutely serious at Padwin. When you hear the things that we hear, and just some of the absolute hatred that goes towards women, and when we see things like, the Donald Trump and his minions talking about what they would do on day one to go around Congress to make abortion illegal nationwide. We know that members of the Republican Party, as much as they'd like to say it was states' rights, we know that they want to push towards a national abortion ban. We know that if a national abortion ban went across the desk of a President Trump or a President Haley, that they would sign it into law immediately. So why not just avoid the entire thing and just mandatory vasectomies? I'm dead serious. I am dead serious. Why not? It's a procedure that's reversible. No big deal. Shouldn't force a medical procedure on anyone. This is a bad argument. Okay, so Justin, let's have that conversation. You have enough followers. So are you forcing women to have a baby? Are you okay with that? Because that's the alternative. And we know there's examples like the situation in Texas with Kate Cox, and she almost lost her life, a woman who was pro-life. There's a story about a woman who was pro-life who was raped by her Lyft driver. She's now suing Lyft. She doesn't know what to do because she's staunchly pro-life, but she's carrying around her rapist's baby. So why not? Why not, guys? What's the issue with that? Democrats, let me see what this. Democrats created and passed a law for Eugene Carroll at a complete scam wake up. That's completely wrong, Winston. Absolutely completely wrong. You don't have enough followers, or I could tell you how you're wrong. No, you're wrong about that. Again, it's another talking point, and thank you again for sharing your hatred for women. It's pretty obvious. Liberals need more vasectomies. Liberals need more vasectomies. Okay, sure. So that's the topic tonight. This is an issue that the right is losing on, abortion, at every turn. It's the primary reason that you got hammered in the midterms. It's why you see ballot measures in Ohio and in Kansas and in Idaho, places like that are bright red. The voters have said overwhelmingly that no, we want to be able to protect bodily autonomy. And I believe a lot of the people who are Republican and conservative, they look at this as a rights issue, not necessarily an abortion issue. Like they look at it as, I don't want government telling me what I can and can't do with my body. So that goes into many, many factors, right? So, gentlemen, if you don't think that women should be able to have the power to make their decisions for themselves, then why don't you step up and have the procedure done? It's a serious question. I mean, it's a serious question. So that's the topic tonight. A few more little bits of news. There is a right-wing conspiracy now that is spinning around regarding Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. The right seems to think that it might be a psyop and or a Democrat plan to infiltrate our electoral system, right? Because they are so threatened by Taylor Swift. In fact, I've seen people on the right try to make the claim that Lauren Boebert is the right's answer to Taylor Swift. Couple problems with that I see. We know that Lauren Boebert is handy, but not exactly talented. That's just one argument. We'll leave it right there. But the question then becomes, what do we do about that latest conspiracy? Do we just laugh it off? I think we probably just laugh it off because that one's just dumb. That is just dumb. So what are you afraid of? You're afraid that because Taylor Swift got hundreds of thousands of new voters registered, that you're afraid of her? You don't have, the right doesn't have an answer to her, and that's the threat. Especially conservative men, they're threatened by her because she's smart, because she's talented, because she's a totally sharp businesswoman. She's making a difference in our society. There's a lot of people who look up to her and respect her. Yeah. So many people just feeling that they can't handle the truth. So wide open panel discussion tonight, this evening, guys. So let's jump right in. NWO, how are you tonight?
Good. So it's actually your position that you want to do this with the mandatory vasectomies?
Why not?
Well, I think that you could attempt to. I don't think you'd be very successful.
Okay.
I
So
just you're
why? So
saying,
so we're successful. We're successful telling women what they can and can't do with their bodies.
well, what do you mean?
So there's women in many many states in our country that don't have bodily autonomy.
Oh, yeah, I don't believe that they have a right to it.
You don't believe that they have a right to bodily autonomy?
Yeah, I don't believe in rights.
You don't believe in rights.
Yeah, do you believe in rights?
Yeah, I
What's
do
what's a
believe in rights.
what's a right?
Why don't you tell me? This is interesting.
You don't know?
I'm asking you. This is an interest.
I can give you two definitions and we could see if you'd like to use one of those two. We could say that they're legal moral entitlements, or we could say that they're possessed by one's ability to have higher rationale.
I don't agree with either. They're rights that we have based on our
Give
Constitution,
me a
based on
better
the law.
definition.
It's our. I have a right to free speech. I have a right to
Wait,
freedom of the press. I have a
what
right
gives you
to
the right?
practice. Our society does. Our Constitution gives us that right.
So black people during slavery, they didn't have rights, and they never had rights under your framework.
Under my framework, they didn't. No.
So these aren't inalienable. These aren't like bestowed upon us by something other than ourselves. These are just made up by society.
Well, I don't believe that God gave us our rights at all. If that's your point.
So where do rights come from? If you can't define it, if my definitions aren't good enough, where do they come
I,
from?
I just told you.
They come from society, is what you said.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a society where we have certain rights and protections under the law. Depending on where you live, you might have different rights in a different country,
So,
in a different nation, in a different state.
so you'd have to honor it if a state says that women don't have this access to abortion.
Well, that's the point. There are states in our country that are telling women what they can and can't do with their body. Therefore, I'm saying, why shouldn't the same apply to men?
That's your argument where rights come from, though, is society. I don't actually believe they exist. I think the only ability you have is to defend yourself.
Okay, I really don't care about your ridiculous argument, so you can have a good night. What? That might be the stupidest one I've heard yet, but no surprise. Um, if that's the argument, if that's the argument that we're going to make, that we now have to come up with a different definition to as to what a right is. Our rights were not granted to us by God. I'm sorry to tell you, they're not. Some people might, if you believe, that's your perspective, and I respect that, but it's not. I don't believe, so therefore my rights don't come from God. So once again, the conversation specifically, okay, is about if society, okay, if Republican legislators in our country and conservative judges on the Supreme Court and Donald Trump, because he's bragging about how he took your rights away, women, why can't we mandate vasectomies for men? Why can't we? Why can't we? Why not? NWO, you're done, bro. You're just, you can go back and drink whatever the hell Kool-Aid you're drinking. I don't know what that is. Um, but again, the irony behind that debate is um, if you had a society that respected women, um, we wouldn't have to have this conversation. But too many people, and I would imagine that NWO falls into that same category, doesn't respect women. Therefore, let's have a conversation about trying to change the argument. Because you guys know full well that if men could get pregnant, there would be Planned Parenthoods on every corner. There'd be more than Starbucks. They would be everywhere. Um, everywhere. So that's the irony. Yeah, that's and I want to have that conversation with people who want to be who'd like to have the conversation. Let's talk about it. Why would that be such a problem? Seriously, why could we not have that conversation? Travis, why do I believe in mandatory? I believe in mandatory vasectomies because the entire conversation about pregnancy falls on women, and women's rights are being taken away. So why not create a situation where vasectomies become mandatory, so that men would then have to feel the burden of what it's like to have society telling them what to do with their bodies? Because right now there are no laws in our country telling men what we can and can't do with our bodies when it comes to medical decisions. There are none. That's why. That's why. And I'm not being facetious. I support it. I support it. No doubt about it. Puberty to such a time whenever you decide to have children. And if you decide you don't want to have kids, then you're free will in your whole life. You know, you can even get a little punch card when you go out on your first date. Here's my card. I've been snipped. Why not? I mean, it's a legitimate conversation. It's a legitimate conversation. Arguing a permanent versus a non-permanent is crazy. Vasectomy is not permanent. It's not a permanent thing. Why would you? Okay, I want to look something up here. I have a quick question that I want to answer myself. Oh, okay. So breaking news: Fannie Willis won't be asked about alleged affair in divorce case after the agreement was reached, so she'll stay on the case. Thank you, friend. Appreciate that. That's interesting news. Okay. Hey, Erica.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm all right. I was just listening to what you were saying and what people were commenting in the comments. And my comment on this would be, the onus generally regarding birth control is on women,
Mm-hmm.
and the birth control that women are asked to use is generally speaking hormonal birth control, be it
Mm-hmm.
an implant, be it an IUD, be it the contraceptive pill.
Yep.
Um, I was advised once by a doctor that if I ever wanted to get pregnant, going on the contraceptive pill is not a good option because that lingers in your system for up to a year after you finish taking it.
Sure.
So when people come off the pill and they say, right, we're going to have kids now, that's not immediate. It takes up to a year for the hormones that have been floating around their system for potentially decades to actually dissipate from their system so that they can become pregnant. So when people talk about vasectomies um, being, I mean, vasectomies are absolutely reversible, and it takes some time for them for functionality to return.
Mm-hmm.
That is only the same as when a woman it comes off the hormonal contraception. I would add to that, they actually tried out hormonal contraception for men. It does exist. And the men that were on it couldn't take the side effects, which were almost the same as the side effects that women experience when they were on when they are on the contraceptive pill. Um, but men did not like those side effects. And so they found it wasn't a good method of birth control, not because it wasn't reliable, but because men didn't take it because they didn't like the side effects. So the point of this is there are options available, but they are not currently marketed because men will not use them because they don't like the side effects that women have to put up with for decades of their lives.
That's right.
And it's ridiculous to me that the entire onus of this is on women. You cannot conceive alone. It is impossible. Well, you can conceive if someone's donated some stuff,
Correct.
but bar that, you need a sperm to meet an egg,
Correct.
and you cannot um that it does not happen if those two things do not happen. So you need both a sperm and an egg to do it. Now, I'm not wrong. Sperm lives inside male bodies,
Yes.
and therefore I would say, gents, the best way not to get women pregnant would not to be, well, that, or don't have sex with anyone until you're ready for babies.
Yeah.
Like it could be that.
Sure.
But you know, when these men are talking about women being run through, they're run through by other men. They're run through by you and your pals. You know, that all of that. It's just this whole thing drives me nuts, and I can't tell you how much. And I educate young people on this. Um, and you know, and I'm trying to educate them responsibly in terms of, you know, respecting, especially young men, respecting women and respecting women's bodies. Um, no, someone someone in the comments said no, by choice they're ran through. Well, ran through is not the correct tense to start with. Um, like if you want to sound educated, use the correct tense. Um, but secondly, they couldn't be run through were people not willing to have sex with them. So, you know,
Yeah, I mean that's right. So when I had a vasectomy after my third child, and I was told by my doctor that it would be between 3 and 4 months, typically speaking, before things were, you know, back to normal if I decided to have the situation reversed. I guess it depends
Mhm.
on the individual, like everybody else. But the procedure is pretty simple. It's really non-invasive. Well, I mean, it's invasive, but it's nothing major. It's actually quite simple.
Yeah.
And then
In
you're off, and then
in
you're free.
in comparison, obviously, to the equivalent surgery being done to a female body, which is incredibly invasive and is permanent.
Yeah,
And they won't do it if you're under a certain age, they
that's
won't
right.
do it without your husband's consent.
That's right.
You know, it's so one-sided. Now, I'm lucky enough to live in a nation where termination of pregnancy is easily accessible and free. Um, and so I will never have to face this situation. Well, plus I'm 45, I probably won't have to anyway. But I will not have to face this situation of being in a state where you cannot have a termination, and yet I don't like to argue this thing of, well, what if your life is in danger? That to me, that's not that I don't care about. Well, I do care about that, but actually, I think you should be able to, just decide
That's right.
that's what you want.
I mean,
Um,
pregnancy can put a woman's life in danger. Just the sheer fact of being pregnant. You
yeah,
know, that
and
doesn't get talked about enough.
it changes a woman's body forever.
Yeah.
There are some pregnancies that if you go through with them, it's not the result is not going to be not going to be productive, shall we say, but that then will affect your chances of ever being able to have a viable pregnancy in the future. There's so many good reasons why women should be allowed them, apart from the fact we're living in the 21st century. We are not
They
living in a
are.
time when apart from anything else, we don't really need more people in the world. There are loads of us, and we are
Hmm.
ruining it.
Hmm.
We
Good
don't,
point.
we don't need to add to the population. And the only real argument for adding to the population is that you want more people to do more work.
Right.
And Cookie's mum is right. They don't care about them once they're born because they're not
No.
willing to give them free medical care.
Nope.
They're not willing to treat kids' cancers. They're not willing to give mums free maternity care. They're not willing to in this country they send out baby boxes where the box acts as like a cradle, and they're full of baby clothes and toys and all of that kind of stuff. They don't do that in the US. And they're also not willing to put any restrictions on the things that unalive kids once they go to school. So I'm
So
sorry.
no, you're right. You're right. I want to address a comment. Tattoo de soul. So you say that this is just an unhonest, I think you meant dishonest discussion. It's to make a point, not on good faith at all. Why? Because you don't agree? Because from my perspective, it's purely in good faith. Why does the burden, to Erica's point, why does the burden to be sure someone doesn't get pregnant always fall to women? Why can't men take responsibility in that? So tats the soul. But you can come up and talk to me about it. You've got plenty of followers.
And the point is that most women use dual birth control because not only are they on hormonal birth control themselves, but they will nearly always, especially if it's with someone who's not a regular partner, insist on a condom also.
Right.
So that's dual birth control. And guess what? Things still go wrong.
Sure. That's
you
right.
know
Yeah.
and things and the only way for things not to mistakes not to happen is for nobody to have sex, and that is just not it's fantasy land if you
Yeah.
think that people are not gonna have sex outside of marriage, or not gonna have sex for recreational purposes. Most sex is for recreational purposes.
Hell yeah, it is. Absolutely.
The best kind is for recreational purposes. The kind to get pregnant is dreadful because it's so much pressure. You know,
It's true. It's
the,
true.
the
It's
kind to
so
get
true.
pregnant is, I've done my temperature today. Quick, meet
I
me at
remember.
lunchtime in the
I
parking
exactly.
lot.
I remember getting phone calls at work. You need to be home in a half an hour. I'm like, I'm 45 minutes away. Get your ass home now. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. That's not the
Yeah,
good stuff. You don't want to be
yeah.
do, you know,
Well,
that's not the stuff you want on a regular.
I wasn't complaining. I'm just saying. But you're right. It's not as, it's not the spontaneous
It's not sex.
look across the table and stare into each other's eyes longingly, and you got your Barry White on in the background, and yeah,
It's not, it's
exactly.
not, it's not sexy when it's done because a thermometer's been involved. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right.
That's
You're
not,
right.
that's not fun. Anyway, I'm going to go.
You're
I
right.
need to go to bed. It's
Go
11:30.
to bed,
But thank
please.
you very
Thank you.
much for having me. I hope I made some good points.
You did.
Good
I
night,
appreciate you,
all.
Erica. Thank you. Thank you very much, friend. Have a good night. Be well. Sleep well. Bye. Yeah, that's the point, right, friends? This is the conversation. If you think I'm not serious about this, let's have that conversation because I think it's a viable conversation that we should be having, and why not? What? Good evening, Jacob. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks. What's on your mind tonight?
So, so you believe there should be mandatory vasectomies?
Yeah, why not?
Are you talking like in the U.S. or the whole world or what?
Well, at least in the U.S., other countries don't have the issue that we have here with the government telling women what they should do with their bodies. So why shouldn't the government tell
So,
men what to
so
do with
you
theirs?
want to live in a country where the government is telling you when you can procreate or not?
That's the government is telling women what they can do with their bodies now.
Well, the government's giving women a choice.
The government is telling women what they can do with their bodies, Jacob.
How do you figure?
What do you think abortion bans are, Jacob? What do
Okay,
you
but
think they are?
a woman can go to another state and get an abortion.
Oh, right. So she should have to leave a state that she lives in and face criminal prosecution potentially in some states when she gets back. But men shouldn't have to take any responsibility?
So you're talking about population control?
No, I'm not. I'm talking about responsible approaches to family planning.
Okay, but there's a
So here's the question, Jacob. So can you tell me a law currently in our country that tells men what they can do with their bodies when it comes to decision regarding medical procedures? Can you name one?
no, and I think that's
Okay.
how it should be. I don't think the government should.
Well, wait,
I
but there
don't think the
are, but
government
there
should be
are.
involved in medical
Okay,
stuff
but
like
there.
that.
Okay, then you're pro-choice then.
They're not telling women you have to go get an abortion. They're giving them a choice.
No, they're telling women that they can't control their own bodies. They're telling women that they can't get an abortion. I mean, look at the restrictive laws in the state.
Okay, they can't get one maybe right down the road from their house, but they can go get
Or
one.
no, in the state again, Jacob. Why should women? Why should women have to leave the state that they live in? Why should women have their rights violated? Why should they? Your rights aren't being violated. Why can't the government's telling women what to do? Why can't the government tell you and I what to do?
I don't think they should.
But they are. The
Well,
government is.
depends on
The
how you
government
look
is.
at it.
So how are you looking at it?
Um,
Do you think a woman? So first of all, a woman or a family that has the means to travel, sure, hop on a plane or whatever that might be. But what about somebody who's poor? What about somebody who is in a situation that things happen and they can't travel? They're forced to give birth based on what the government tells them to do. So again, the question I have for you is if you don't like that, then why should the government be telling women what to do with their bodies?
why not just practice safe sex?
Okay, so
And I believe, and I agree
safe
that
sex would
that
be
doesn't always.
excuse me, safe sex would be you getting a vasectomy.
No, I
Yeah,
don't
that
agree
would be
with that.
safe. That because you don't want the government telling you what to do.
I just don't. I don't think it. I mean, every guy has a choice to go get a vasectomy right now. I
Sure,
don't
but
think the
women
government
don't
should be
have that
telling you
choice.
have to go get one.
But
So
the
so when
government
should
is
this take
telling.
place? Like at birth?
No, I mean not at birth. Maybe puberty. And then we can determine what that would look like. Is maybe at some point you've got to prove your worthiness as a provider. You've got to be willing to accept responsibility for that child financially. You've got to be all in. You've got to prove that you're ready to have a
Who's going
kid.
to pay for these vasectomies?
Who pays for abortions?
I don't know. I've never had
I think.
one.
Okay, I haven't either, but there are lots of places. I mean, there's lots of clinics across the country. I mean, we don't pay for them. As our tax
Okay,
dollars
so
don't pay for them. If that's your
okay,
concern.
so at puberty, someone's forced to go pay for a vasectomy, and then when they get older, they decide they want to have kids. So I have to go
It's
back and I
it's
have to
it's
pay.
yeah, it's insurance, man. It's covered under insurance. So
What about people who don't have insurance?
it's no different now. There's lots of people. Another argument, you just made my argument for universal health care. Universal health care wouldn't have an issue. All set, ready to go.
So
Line them up.
a kid who is at puberty who doesn't really know what he wants is forced to get a vasectomy, has to
Right.
pay for it,
A
and
kid,
then
well, his parents would have insurance, okay? Okay? And if they don't, they got to figure it out. That's what women have to do. Women who
okay,
don't
so
have to
then when I'm
women who
older
women
and
who
I
don't have
decide I want
women
to
who
have
don't have hold
kids,
on,
I
hold
have
on.
to go
Women who
pay
don't
to
excuse
have.
me, women who don't have insurance have to figure it out. So why can't men?
Uh,
You see, Jacob, just I can tell the way you're struggling to answer because there's no argument that you
I'm
can
not
make.
struggling to answer. It
No,
just
you
doesn't
are.
make sense to me.
Well, it doesn't make sense because why? Because you don't think that men should be told what to do, but you're okay with women being told what to do?
No, nobody's telling women what to do.
Jacob, so talk to me about what happened in Texas.
Women have a choice too. Women have a
They
choice
don't.
not to get pregnant. Now,
Do they?
I do
How do
believe.
women
Now, let
excuse me,
me
hold
talk.
on.
I do
Well,
believe
no,
in
no, no, no,
some
no, hold on a second.
cases.
Hold on, stop. Hold on. So you said women have a choice to not get pregnant. So if they're sexually assaulted, is that their choice?
Well, that's what I was about to bring up. In certain
Okay.
circumstances,
Okay.
I mean,
Certain circumstances.
I'm not against. I mean, I'm not for abortions, but I do
Well,
believe there's certain circumstances
but Jacob, you see
where
what
they
you're
should
doing
have
right
that
now?
option.
This is an example. You're doing exactly what my concern is that you're trying to justify why you as a man wouldn't have to get this procedure done. And yet you're suddenly spinning it around to say, well, a woman could make that choice to not get pregnant. No, she can't always. She can't always. Do you know oftentimes that so many victims of sexual assault, they don't even report them? And you are aware that pregnancies could happen via sexual assault, right?
Yeah, obviously,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. In situation in Texas where this woman was going to she was going to pass away based on the situation that she had there, and the Supreme Court of Texas wouldn't even allow her to get an abortion. So if her partner in that case had a vasectomy, she would have had to deal with it. I'm just asking you to think about this differently. Okay,
Okay, but
I'm asking you to
this is
hold
we
on.
live in
I'm asking
America.
hold on. I'm asking you to think about this differently because right now there is legislation in our country that is telling women what they can and can't do with their bodies when it comes to medical decisions. And there are no such things for men. All I'm saying is why? Why does it have to be that way? Why can't women not have to carry that burden all the time? Why can't men?
I think it's the responsibility of both men and women.
Okay,
I
but
think
again,
there's other ways around a mandatory vasectomy. You know,
okay, but
that
once again, man, once again, you're still missing the point. There are laws that are now passed in our country
why
that are
mandatory for a man to get a vasectomy instead of a woman
women can't get
getting
vasectomies
getting her tubes tied? If you let me finish the sentence.
because that's permanent. Vasectomies aren't.
No, that can be reversed.
dude, no. Okay, I'm gonna bring up a woman. Okay, so
Your
again,
dad should have gotten a vasectomy too. You're obviously a
oh,
Democrat that
so
knows it all.
you're obviously a
On the
pig and a
floor.
fucking bigot. So get the fuck out of here. Sorry,
I'm so
sorry,
sorry.
sorry, Diva. It's all good.
Hello?
It's okay. I'm here. Yeah, sorry. I had to drop that pig just because he doesn't get it. Um, sorry. I needed to kick him because of course um he got he got pig like he got bigoted. Anyway, hi. How are you, Diva? You got a bad connection, friend. Why don't you request again? I'll bring you back up. So what we often find with people on the right when they lose an argument is that they resort to personal attacks. So he chose to personally attack me, which I don't care. I really don't give a shit. It just shows people who you are, quite frankly. Um, if that's the only argument that you have, and you could see the talking in circles, right? When literally confronted with a similar situation that, oh, I as a man, I don't want to be told what to do, but it's really okay for women to be told what to do. It's pretty despicable, quite frankly, but not surprising. We see it all the time. Temptress, how are you?
Hi. I just wanted to like have people look up the history of birth control, and the eugenics we did in Puerto Rico to test it and how it goes back to racism and the the indigenous population and everything else. So that's all that I wanted to add.
Do you have a point to make about that?
Well, yeah, I wanted people to know that like the birth control for women in Puerto Rico were basically guinea pigs, for
Oh yeah.
the mega machine. So they used them as guinea pigs. They went after indigenous people and people of color, who were poor and couldn't afford it, and those families have never gotten um, any sort of reimbursement for what they did to them. They made them completely infertile. They couldn't have children anymore. I mean, it's just horrific. There's a really dark
Hmm.
side to birth control for women.
That's true. I appreciate that perspective on that, Temptress. I forgot all about that. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna drop. Thanks, guys.
You got it. Have a good night. Hey, friend.
Hello.
How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Thanks.
Going well, Panda. What's going on with you?
Um, I was listening to that. You were below that guy. You could tell that his mind was just he just couldn't compute. It was just not
Get a little bit
hitting
closer to
him.
your mic, brother. I've been having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, I was saying that guy was really. You could tell that he was not computing. His mind was blown by what you've
Yeah.
presented here. But I wanted to ask him if he had stayed up, which was, unless you are willing to agree to universal health care, universal pre-K, universal school lunches, uh, all of these things that actually support children after they are born, no one is in any position to require or force anyone to have children. We are not set up as a society for that. And this is like regardless of the fact that no one should make any decisions for anyone. This is between a person with the capacity for giving birth and their doctor and whomever they choose to include in that decision making. And you said something about what about poor people? How would they actually be able to get access to abortions if it was just up to the states, which we know Republicans are planning to make a national abortion ban. That's their next step. The I,
Are you driving, brother? Are you driving?
I'll request later. Sorry about that.
Okay, bud. Sorry. Thanks, man. I don't want to get the live taken down. Um, I know where he's going with that. Please come back, Panda, when you land, as they say. Please continue to like and share, guys. We'd really appreciate that. I'm a watch. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. You can call me Ima. I was
Hi,
just
Emma.
noticing that. Thank you. Jacob, when you said that you were bringing up a woman, he really got nervous and started acting out, it
Yeah.
seemed.
Yep.
Um, but this I've thought for a long time that mandatory vasectomies should be considered because they don't, like you said, they don't put anything on the men. It's always the women, and it's a form of punishment for women
Control. Yeah.
to be forced to have, yeah, and to be punished for having sex. And the only argument that they have is through Christianity, through their religion, and we have a freedom of religion, and we should have a freedom from religion, so
That's right.
that shouldn't affect the rules on our bodies. And another thing is Viagra, for instance. If a
Sure.
woman wants to have um, any any kind of surgery, she has to get her husband's permission for to make sure that she wants to have her tubes tied or she wants to get a hysterectomy because she may want to have children later to make sure that her husband agrees that uh, that she's
I,
not going to
I
want to
don't
have
know if
children later,
I don't know
and
if it's permit.
doctors
I don't know if
refuse.
it's I don't know. I don't know if it's permission. I think what's required is as a conversation. I'm not sure if it's permission. I might be wrong about that, but I want to ensure that we're being honest with ourselves. If you have to get permission, I don't know about that.
Well, it feels like it is when the doctor wants a man to come in and tell you that you can't just go in on your own. It feels like it's
Yeah,
permission.
sure.
But
That's fair. That's fair.
with
That's fair.
Viagra, a man a man can go in and say, "Oh, I'm having a trouble hitting," and he gets all the Viagra that he needs. They even send him to prison, and they get it through Medicare. Through Medicaid. While
Right.
people are in prison, they get Viagra. What is that all about? And they don't
Yeah,
have to have a woman come in and say, okay, you know, give let him have Viagra because a man can just have Viagra and not even have a woman, and then go out and attack somebody, you know,
it's
and
true.
so there should be, why don't they have any kind of restrictions on that? And
Yeah,
I know
that's
that
kind
but
of the
like I
point.
said, I've said before, I think that you said that if men got pregnant, they would have an abortion clinic on every street corner.
No
And
doubt about it.
it's the same way with women. They don't do anything. They don't do anything to try to help women. And if I know that can't make it mandatory, and they won't, but at least it's something that parents can talk about. Um, consider it, for their kids. If
That's right.
they're 16 or 17, they're starting to, act like they're going to be sexually active. And if they have that, say this is an option to make sure that you
That's
don't
right.
get anybody pregnant
That's
and
right.
and
That's right.
just to be educated about it. Oh,
I would agree.
and one more, the only other thing that I wanted to point out is that family planning does provide uh, vasectomies free of charge,
Yeah, I know.
and Medicare also provides it.
Yeah, and it's covered under
And
most
so
insurances.
that's all I
Yep.
wanted to say.
I appreciate you, Emma. Thank you very much for jumping in tonight. Appreciate your perspective. You have a good evening. Thanks for
So
joining.
there's no excuse. There's no excuse for them not to do it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a
Bye.
good night. Bye. Yeah,
You
again,
too.
I
Thank
think
you.
thank you. We're talking about trying to, move our society forward, right? Isn't that's our objective here? Trying to move our society forward, and the burden always falls to women in this situation. Why? That's what I want to know. Hi, Christopher. How are you?
So I'm just questioning what now did I hear her correctly that you've been quoted as saying that if men got pregnant, there would be an abortion clinic on every corner?
If men could get pregnant, there would be. Do you think we would be having the conversations that we are? If men
I,
could get
I'm
pregnant, there would be
I
there would never be a law passed telling men what to do with their bodies. You know that as well as I do.
so no, I don't know that. I disagree with that statement. It's very general on the whole. I mean, that just speaks lowly of men, but not only the sanctity of life, but
Well,
it's really an overgeneralization of the
right,
problem.
but who are passing the laws? Who are passing the laws telling women what to do with their bodies?
Men and women,
Predominantly men, overwhelmingly.
but
State legislatures,
there
state
are men
legislatures.
and women.
Right, but it's overwhelmingly men.
Okay.
Overwhelmingly. Okay? So again, the question is, so I'm assuming you don't believe that there should be mandatory vasectomies for men?
No, I don't think there should be mandatory anything for men. I mean, I don't think you can
For men.
mandatory that somebody
For
has a
men.
medical procedure, but it's a great.
Okay. Okay. But you're okay with telling women what to do with their bodies?
No, I'm not okay with telling women what to do with their bodies. I'm not saying that. The
So what are you
I am
saying?
speaking from experience. I did have a vasectomy.
Me too.
I also have 5 children.
I have three.
Um, I have I have a wife that had both the tubal and a hysterectomy, so I've gone through that. My biggest issue with this topic of conversation is it seems that everybody wants to talk about abortion. They only want to give the right to the woman, but they
It's her
don't want to
body.
take into consideration of the child that has been.
It's her body,
It
Christopher.
very well is her body, but the body
It's
of
her
the
body.
child has to be. That's
It, the,
what the whole abortion issue is about. It's about the
No,
fact
it's
that
not. That's your
you.
opinion. That's your. I don't agree. I don't think that's what the issue is about at all. I think it's about religious supremacy. I think it's about controlling women. I do not
Okay,
think it's about.
so
I
you
don't think it's
give.
about. Hold on, I'm still talking. I don't think it's about the sanctity of life at all because we know we've got years of data to tell us that as soon as that child's born, the people who wanted that child born don't give a shit. They vote against SNAP benefits. They vote against school lunches. We see it in states that have got the lowest infant mortality rate or the highest infant mortality rate. They don't do anything to address the poor. They're closing medical centers in rural and urban communities. They vote against universal health care. So again, to me, it's about control. That's my opinion. It's about controlling women and
Okay,
telling them what to do.
all right, and that is what some people are doing. They're controlling, but the abortion laws that are carried out through the nine months. I mean, do you think that's a little bit morbid if you're saying that a woman has the right to end pregnancy at any term?
But they
I mean, if
don't.
it's
But they don't. They don't.
they don't what?
They don't. I mean, women. Again, women are not having abortions in the third trimester unless there is a serious issue. They're not. Again, the question is, why should women always have to carry this burden? Why can't men?
Well, actually, I mean, they both should carry the burden because it's they lay down together, so it's their
But
they
they
should
don't, though,
before
in our
you enter into
society.
that.
But they
Here's the
don't.
other my other issue with this premise is that we're talking about the women's rights to abortion. Okay, but
Right.
the worst
Reproductive
thing
health care.
from having unprotected sex is never going to be a child. There's so much more worse things that can happen from you having unprotected sex than
Well,
having a
I
child.
guess I guess it depends, right? If the expectation was that someone wasn't going to get pregnant and they did, and it changed your life, that would be pretty bad.
Oh yeah, but and I've had the other people say that 18 to 20 years haven't taken care of a child. I mean, most people that actually have their children, I mean, if you're going to be general, they don't take care of their children, just like you just
Right.
said. The
That's my
government doesn't
point.
even want to take care of the child. So,
Right. That's my
you
point.
know,
So once again, so Christopher, again, the question I ask you is there, can you tell me a law in our country that tells men, tells you and I, what we can do with our bodies when it comes to medical decisions? Can you name one?
no, we don't have a stipulation on what we can do with medically.
So why do women?
And that's what I said to start off with. The reason that the abortion issues are not for the woman's right, is for protection of the unborn child. That's what the whole
It's
Roe v.
but it's not.
Wade, that was everything
But
was
that
done.
child doesn't. No, that's not true. That's actually not true. That's not the reason why. But that child doesn't have rights under our Constitution until they're born. So there are no rights. So the
So
question
when
I'm not
oh,
done. The question I have then, we're talking about bodily autonomy here. And in our society right now, women do not have bodily autonomy unless they live in a state where those rights are protected. So if you live in a state and you don't, then you're not treated equally under the law. So why can't we have a society where men are put in that position? Why is that?
Well, because like you said, men don't carry the offspring.
Right, but you can't have the child without the man. So
Yeah.
you could nip it in the
Hey,
bud, literally.
I'm all for mandating vasectomies to deadbeat fathers that go around procreating 9 and 10 baby mamas. My I'm all for that. I'm not against vasectomies. I'm just against the thing saying that the life. And here's another thing, just food for thought. If
Please
you
finish
go
your
and you
no.
kill a
Let's
pregnant
finish your
woman,
finish. Hold on a second. Let's finish your thought. We're not going to use that word first of all. Let's finish your thought. So you said you're okay with mandatory vasectomies for a deadbeat dad. So how do you know when they become a deadbeat dad? Because if they become a deadbeat dad, they're already a deadbeat dad. So that doesn't solve any problem. That doesn't
I
solve any
mean,
problem,
I don't
does
make
it?
the laws, but in my opinion, if there should be some kind of governing body out there that says, "Hey, after you've had enough chances of ruining these young women's or women's lives, and they're having children, and we're having to support them, and you're not doing your job," at some point you got to say, as a society, your offspring is not welcome because you're not taking care of it. So I
I
mean, I
don't
don't
think
know.
you're getting it. So again, I think I
Yeah.
would like you to ask you to just to reconsider because again, women are the ones that carry the burden in our society, and men don't. And I think it's time for them to step up. So thanks for joining tonight, Christopher.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Um, so math coach Flo, you've got enough followers. You said the host is hiding something. That's why he's standing by poor victimized women. Bad dude. I just sent you an invite. Let's talk about that, math coach Flo. I'll be curious if you accept. It's quite a powerful statement that you made there, brother. I'd love to talk to you about it, though. Pretty powerful statement. Hey, man,
Hey, how goes it?
it's going well. How are you?
I'm in the kitchen cooking, which is where my wife likes to keep me. That's where I am the sexiest. So, first of all,
um,
being this sexy is difficult, and
I
I
know.
would
I
like that
struggle
to
with it.
be acknowledged and laughed at in the comments simultaneously.
Ooh.
Here's kind of the thing for the men that are struggling intellectually in this conversation. If you want to have an actual intellectual conversation or an adult conversation, you can choose. There are certain things that are going to be incumbent upon you. The first is you can't bring your faith to the table. This is not a discussion about your faith or your beliefs or what your religious leader says at a pulpit or an altar. That is anecdotal and that is BS. Two, we have to be willing as men to admit that we don't have the reproductive system to give birth, right? But we can get women pregnant without much effort if one is being honest, right? The white cis Christian and Christo fascist males in government at state level and at federal level are insisting that they alone know what is best for a woman. Pause for just a second and think to yourself, do I, as a cis male, and especially the Christians that are having the intellectual issues, believe that anywhere in our Sky Daddy's text that it says it's okay to have control over someone? I got some news for you. It actually doesn't exist. So if we want to talk about this, this is really about hypocrisy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're trying to get to with this conversation. It's
Exactly.
that we keep telling women as men in society, and we have since the beginning and the forming of this country, we have told women they can't vote, they can't have credit cards, they can't have bank accounts, that they need to be barefoot and pregnant. All of these things, right? All Fax and I are trying to do with this is to strike up the conversation and get men to engage and say, you know what? The least I can do is to be willing to be a part of the solution, right?
Correct.
This is a solution based conversation. And there's
Exactly
a
right.
ton of cowards in the comments that keep chirping, 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 chirping. A lot of you have enough followers because I checked that out, just like Fax does. Come up into the box and tell
Hmm.
us how it's okay to tell women what to do, but as soon as we tell men what to do, you all freak out. You all get puffy chested and all up in your feels. Come up into the box. The one thing we don't do here on this live is we don't disrespect people, we don't insult people, but we do match energy. And oh, I'm going to be quiet because now there's a woman in the box, and this is where I shut up.
I don't think Francis has that expectation of you.
No, no.
That was funny though. Hey Francis, how are you?
Hi. You know, oh, there are some interesting men in the comments, but I agree with you. I think it is not about religion and it is about control. And I'll tell you
Yes.
why. There's something that always interests me about people who claim to be religious and they claim that it's against their religion and they don't believe in the death of a baby, but they're willing to give an exception for grape.
Mm,
Why is that child, if it's a life and you're so concerned about the life, why is that an exception in your
good.
mind?
Good point.
In my mind, it's an exception because I don't get a choice to tell somebody else what to do with their body. And as someone who does believe, I also know that if you do subscribe to being a Christian, we also believe in free will and allowing
Right.
people to make their own choices. So it is not incumbent upon us to enforce our religious beliefs on other people. Religion should be a choice, not a mandate.
That's right. And I've always said that. I mean, I do think that there is a lot of religion intertwined in this debate, but to me, it comes down to control. So I
Right.
think people will use their faith as a way to mask their control.
And I did see someone in the comments, and I don't disagree with them that religion is often used as a method of control anyhow.
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, once again, to Anthony's point, he said it very, very well. I mean, the entire, I support this though, quite frankly, but it does call out the hypocrisy that exists in our society.
Well,
Especially when you look at the overwhelming majority of Americans, whether you be Democrat, Republican, liberal, a liberal, conservative, doesn't matter,
right.
support a woman's right to bodily autonomy. Now, you can have an opinion on abortion. Everybody's entitled to that.
Everybody has an opinion, but you know what they say about those,
Absolutely.
right?
Exactly. But the point is passing laws. Exactly. Passing laws, right? So that's the point of this conversation. If we want to
And
look at our society differently to say, why can't the burden be on men? The procedure's simple. It can't happen without men. We know that men, we've seen it. You've been in my lives, Francis. We've seen the level of hatred and
yes,
just some of the despicable things that are said about women.
well,
Close your legs, whatever it might be.
you know what I have said, right?
Yeah.
I have said there are many, many men out there that like to have sex with women but do not like women.
Oh yeah. No doubt.
And most of those men are, I love women. No, you don't. You
No, you
don't
don't.
because you don't respect them enough to listen to them and you don't care enough. I had this conversation with a friend of mine who was saying, you wouldn't date a conservative man. I said, no, I wouldn't. Well, why
Nope.
wouldn't you? I said, because they don't care enough about my life to vote to protect me. Now,
Exactly
I
right.
am at this point fairly close to beyond childbearing years, right? But back in my day, if however hard I tried, I could only get pregnant once in 9 months, right?
That's right.
Now, you in your heyday, if you had wanted to, could go out and impregnate as many women as you possibly could. So at the end of the day, those mandatory vasectomies would actually save a lot more abortions than some sort of abortion ban.
That's exactly right. I mean, again, talk about hypocrisy. If you want to preserve life, no better way to do it than having a vasectomy.
Right. Or she can close her legs. Well, you also can keep it in your pants.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's
And
exactly right. That's
and
that's the whole point. That's the entire point of this conversation. It's the blatant hypocrisy that we see all the
and the
time.
And the bottom line is the people that are making these decisions are people that are not educated in this area. It's not even doctors that are making these decisions, right? It's politicians. And we've heard all the recordings of these people that one guy who was asking a woman, a doctor, if they could look at a pregnancy by going through the digestive system with a
Oh yeah,
camera.
that's right. Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
if you don't fundamentally know how the plumbing works, then you should not be involved in the decisions around it.
Well, and we know that most men can't find it, so we'll leave it right there.
Right.
Did you hear? I don't remember if it was. I'm going to make up Iowa, but that doesn't mean Iowa's bad. There was a state rep. Let's just say it is Iowa. And he's a veterinarian, and he was up there telling people how much
Oh,
he
right.
knows about the reproductive system because he's a veterinarian and he's done lots of exams on
On
farm
animals.
animals. Right.
Animals. Yeah.
So that he's
Yeah, he's
an
an expert.
expert now. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I would put my daughter's reproductive health care in his hands. Sure. No problem at all.
Good gravy.
Wow.
the
Yeah,
fact
but yeah.
that men like him say this stuff with their whole chest, with all
Yep.
of their conviction, and they think that they should be respected and heard. No,
Exactly.
you shouldn't.
That's
My
right.
opinion is inconsequential. What my wife and my daughter wish to do with their body only concerns me if they come to me and ask for an opinion. Then it concerns me. Other than that, it's none of my damn business.
That's right.
Period.
We need to
That's
find
right.
that politician and tell him next time he needs to see a proctologist, he should just go to a plumber. It's the same
Right.
thing, right?
This reminds me, and to be honest, this reminds me of if you think back to what Kevin McCarthy, just before he left Congress back in December, he was at a fundraising event, and he talked about when he was at the State of the Union, and when the Democratic Party stood up to cheer, he said that looks like America, diversity, all races, all creeds, all ethnicities, all religions, and then when the Republicans stood up, it looked like the most restrictive country club we would have in America, and it's those people, the restrictive country club, primarily white men, primarily cis heterosexual, so they say, men that are passing these laws, taking away your rights, Francis. That's the point.
Exactly. No, 100%.
Yeah, I know you know. I know I'm preaching to the choir, as they say.
Well, and I didn't always feel this way.
I
I
know
would
we've had
have
this conversation.
in
Yeah.
my younger years would have considered myself pro-life. And I still
Mm-hmm.
consider myself pro-life. I am
Sure.
pro-life because I am for the life of everyone, right? What I'm
Mm-hmm.
also is pro-choice.
That's right.
If you
But
don't want to have a
what you're
divorce, you don't
not is
have one.
yeah. What
Huh?
you're not is you're not pro forced birth. That's what you're not.
Correct. I'm
Yeah.
pro people having choices over their own body.
Exactly. 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 I mean, that's
Team
that again. That's the
Francis.
conversation. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Anthony. You have a question?
Team Francis.
Yeah, thank
Team
you.
Francis. Team Francis. That's right. Thank you, friend, for jumping in. We appreciate always talking to you. And Anthony and I were actually talking offline a little bit about future conversations with people that are professionals. I know your area is speech pathology and other
Mhm.
things, but we want to panel more professionals. So keep your ears peeled. We'll be back in touch.
You know where to find me.
We sure do.
I'll
Indeed.
be down in the comments if you need a woman, I'm there.
We always need women. That's why we're here.
You
Appreciate
know
you,
what I
friend.
mean.
Thanks.
But
Thanks a
thank you.
lot. We got
I
you. See you later.
appreciate you both.
I know. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
See you later. All right. Bye.
And for the record, earlier I was barefoot in the kitchen, just so people know.
You have a little apron on. Yeah.
I used to
I don't
have a
actually. I don't
really
want to know. I don't want to know.
I
I don't
used
want
to
to know.
have a really nice apron that was my grandmother's, but I put it away because I didn't want to. When my mom passed, I didn't want to ruin it. But if anybody out there wants to gift me an apron, I'd be happy to take a picture and add that to my profile.
I don't. You can send it to everybody. I don't. I'm not interested. I really don't
Oh,
want to see
bro,
you with an
you're
apron.
getting a glossy
I'm
8 by 10
just saying.
autograph.
Just letting you know. So, friends, if you guys could like and share the live, I would really, really appreciate that. Obviously, this is an important conversation, and as is always the case, and Anthony called it out earlier, and Francis did, and I have noticed as well, I've seen a lot of people from the right that are squawking. Why
Yeah.
won't you come up and talk? I'd like to have this conversation. I want to know what your opinions are. Do you not think this is a good idea? And why not? What would it look like? Would you agree? Would you say, should it be puberty? Should it be, literally the doctor makes that decision and then they make the decision together along with parents? You have your vasectomy and then you got to pass a test. You've got to prove your worthiness to be a provider, to be a caregiver, to be a responsible participant in the raising of a child before you can have the procedure reversed. So that's what the conversation's about tonight, friends.
Kiki, you have enough followers request to come up into the box.
Okay. You might be wrong. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you. What's on your mind tonight?
I like your argument.
Okay.
I disagree with it, but I like it.
Okay. What do you like about it first?
Well, I see your intention is to bring people who are blind to the obvious unjust justification of government meddling in what women can and cannot do with their own bodies.
Right.
It's easy to overlook how silly that is because, if you're a man, you're not necessarily faced with those consequences. So it's easy to not acknowledge how silly that is. And your argument brings that home to how it would affect a man if the government would make such a mandate.
Right. And so then what don't you like about it?
What I don't like about it is the idea that the government intervening is the solution.
Fair enough. I would agree.
I don't think that the government. Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I agree with that point. I don't think that the government should tell women what to do with their bodies. I don't think that the government should be able to tell people if they can and cannot smoke weed, and I don't think the government should be able to tell people how to live their lives. So I'm with you there. There's all these arguments for, pro-choice, pro-life. The thing that I find really fascinating about all of those arguments is that every single person, in my perspective, that engages in that argument or engages in that conversation always looks at it through the lens of the government being the solution to impose one side or the other's idea of what we need to do. And I think that's really an underlying problem in our country. We all want to jump on the government's the solution bandwagon, and then it just creates division. Why can't we all just unify around the fact that we all need to tell the government to take a hike and not be involved?
Well, I think the irony behind your statement, you might be wrong, is that the Republican Party used to be about small government, used to be about no government intervention. And what's happened? Look at them now.
That's a great question. That's a great question.
I mean, look at them now. They literally want to be in not just in your bedroom. They want to be in women's uteruses. They want to know what's in your. They want to be everywhere. They want to tell people what they can read, how they can dress, what pronoun they can use. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. I mean, to your point, I mean, you bring up a valid argument. I personally, I don't. Government serves a purpose, right? And
yeah.
I think that there are so many examples of why government is necessary, right? Nobody wants government intervention into everything. I certainly don't. But this particular debate, this is like, they used to say Social Security was the third rail of U.S. politics. Now it's abortion.
Yeah.
Now it's abortion rights. Human rights in general. I would say human rights in general, but abortion for the sake of this argument, right? I mean, it is so divisive, and yet people on the right expect the left to get over it. No. Nope.
Well,
I have a daughter.
I
have a daughter that I'm raising. I have a daughter.
I
My
agree with you.
responsibility is to protect her. Yeah.
I agree with you, and I have two daughters as well for the same reason. We may disagree on a lot of other things, but the government being involved in things like this, you're not going to get any argument out of me. I honestly believe at my core that we can use this subject as an example of how the population of the United States has been misrepresented by politics. It doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. In my opinion, the population of this nation have been largely misrepresented by both sides on this subject, because both sides make promises, they campaign on it, and when it gets to the finish line of trying to actually do something about it, it just falls on its face every time, because there seems to not be a political will to actually carry through. Because what in the world are we going to run on in the next political scam of an election cycle? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems like, I've only been paying attention to politics for 25 years, and you know what I've noticed about every single politician running for office, no matter which side of the aisle they're on? This always comes up. It always comes up. We're going to make promises and we're going to make change. And you know what we've not done? We've not done anything to make meaningful change to get out of people's lives and get out of people's reproductive practices. We're the only thing we do is enable the government to meddle in it more, the more that we argue about it.
Anthony?
So I'm gonna gently push back a little bit, because your supposition is that both parties are trying to say that government is the solution. And while on its surface, that's a logical thing to discuss, when you actually look at the legislation and you look at the policies that both parties put forth, that's kind of where that supposition falls apart. I'm going to give you an example, right? I'm going to make a statement. No child should go to school hungry or be in school hungry. Why? It is the government's job, especially one that has the amount of wealth that we do, to ensure that our citizens have food, that they have housing, that they have clothing. Now, we have more than enough money to pay for that, right? This is not saying the government is the solution, but the government is the only body in the capitalist system that can be enabled to do works of good. I think what you're getting at is that the Republican Party specifically touts small government, but then continually introduces Christian based theological policies to invade people's homes, their sexual preferences, the way they want to manage their bodies. That's the party that keeps interjecting government while lying, right? There's nothing on the left where I've seen an actual bill that says, hey, the government's the solution. What these bills are saying is we need to stop dehumanizing people, treat them well, and take care of our society. That concept of taking care of society goes all the way back to Confucius and beyond. So now you're looking at a concept that is over, I think, close to 8,000 years now, right? So think about that. There's a difference between saying what a good society is and who facilitates that action. In our case, because we're a capitalist country, it has to be the government, right? Versus what you said, which is both sides are doing this, because there's only one side. There's the side that's trying to do best for all human beings with equality and equity. And then there's another side that wants to conserve and pull us backward and not advance. So I would be interested. I know that was a lot that I just threw at you, and I apologize. But we're having this really nice repartee with you. So I'd be really interested in your opinion on what I just said, because I think we have so much common ground already. I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper.
Well, there's a portion of what you said I agree with, and that is that let me rephrase my statement that you responded to, accusing both sides of politicizing it for elections.
Okay.
Let me restate that. What I mean to say is Democrats and Republicans, for as long as I've been paying attention, and this is only my own opinion, have been playing chess and checkers with each other, on subjects like this one, the Democrats are very good at playing chess, and the Republicans are very bad at playing chess. They're playing checkers with the Democrats on this subject, and they don't understand why they keep losing. Like they're beating their head against the wall. I don't understand why this isn't working. I don't understand why people don't see our point of view. I don't understand why we're losing voters. Because they're treating the subject like it's something that they need to be involved in. That's what I mean.
Okay,
that's fair.
that
Yeah,
yeah.
I think human. We could probably say human rights in general, not just abortion, but I think the topic of human rights would apply to that argument you just made, and I would agree with you, and I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I
just
think,
gave you
go ahead.
I just gave you a follow, so I hope we can have other conversations because I think you're touching on that clearly this is a theater of absurd type of discussion, right? We're not saying it's going to happen, but what you keyed in on, and you're the first male guest to have keyed in on this, is that, hey, there's some validity here. Let's try to unpack the valid points and ignore the theater of absurd. And that's been really cool. This is what I'm liking about this conversation is you quickly identified your position and you quickly identified on the commonalities that the three of us are having in this conversation. And that we need more guests like you and
Sorry.
less people that are all into screaming laptop and Biden.
Well,
thank you, friend. Anything else
yeah,
on your mind?
I'm really I enjoy watching your lives. I probably we disagree on a great number of things, but the thing that we do agree on is that we both live in America and we need to make decisions that are best for America. And you know, sure, we can talk about different subjects and we can disagree and we can argue. My argument against that behavior, against that, I guess that presentation of that discourse, is because, in my observation, what I'm seeing a lot on platforms like TikTok, where these public discussions are taking place, is it appears that there is a lot of there's a lot of arguing and there's a lot of you're wrong, no, you're wrong, and there's no real effort to. And when I say no real effort, I mean there's no substantial effort put into listening and trying to reason with the opposing view, because there's so much of that laptop hunter, whatever. There's a lot of that, but there's a lot of that on both sides. I witness it on people who are diehard Trumpers. It didn't matter what he did. And then there are people who I witnessed, they could not care any less about any other fact, about anything. They just want to vote for Biden because he's not Trump. And I'm sitting here shaking my head.
But let's unpack that a second, because those are different arguments, right? You're kind of conflating the two. People that are accepting Donald Trump's criminality. I mean, I've had many conversations with people that said even if he's found guilty, they're still going to vote for him. That's different than people saying, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden because I don't want Donald Trump to be president. Those are not that's apples and tangerines. They're not even in the same art. That's not even in the same stratosphere.
My intention was not
let me just
finish
things
together.
Well, let me just finish, because you kind of did. So my point is, okay, that's fair. Then I'll give you a chance to rebuttal if you'd like, or to change your answer, because they're not the same thing at all.
My point is, I'm pointing to the behavior of people trying to engage in discourse to find common ground. If that's their intention, there might just be no intention to actually find common ground. It might just be to waste an hour or 2 hours of their time to argue for fun. I don't know. But
sure,
if the intention is to try and find common ground with the people that live in the same country, the way that the population of the United States is doing it today, it's not very constructive, and I don't see it as being, I don't see it as turning into a constructive conversation anytime soon
That's fair.
if things
That's fair.
continue to go the way we're going.
That's fair. Here's a question though that I have for you. Here's a question I have for you. So do you think I should be willing to engage with someone who thinks that women should just close their legs?
They're not, yes, because they're
You
not
do.
going. I
You
believe that you should engage them in the conversation, because
why?
how are they going to experience an alternative perspective if the only thing they receive and the only thing they hear is, one, what is in their echo chamber of telling them and confirming that what they believe is correct, and two, when they are exposed to any opposing point of view, they're shut down and rejected.
Okay, so let me hold on one second, Anthony. So I asked the question. So here's the problem with that, and I disagree with every fiber of my being, and this is why. If somebody is if that's their approach to say women should just close their legs, then what? So they've already made up their mind how they feel about women. It's not like they said, I struggle with abortion. I'm pro-life. I grew up Christian. The Bible tells me I've got the sanctity of life, blah, blah, blah. That's a conversation that we'd be willing to have, because then we can say, sure, I respect your rights or your beliefs, but the government is passing laws taking away rights, as opposed to someone saying women should just close their legs. Do you see the difference?
I do. I do see.
So
I
I'm
do.
not.
I see your point.
There might be people that have a different compass than I do, but I refuse to engage somebody like that.
And
I'm not going to.
and that's fine. That's fine. But somebody needs to. Somebody
Why?
needs to,
Why?
because we live together in this country.
But
We
they've
are
made that
responsible.
choice. Right,
Okay,
but
and that's
they've made that choice though. That's my
okay.
point. So it's up to them, because they are the outliers in society. They are in the minority. They are the ones that are out on the.
Unfortunately,
Hold on, let me finish.
yeah,
Hold
go
on, let
ahead.
me finish. They are the ones that are out there on an island of hate. It's up to them to want to come back to a civilized society, to approach the fact that the things that they say about women and girls is despicable.
Okay. Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think that your statement that they are the outliers and they are the ones that are alienating themselves, I think that really doesn't take into consideration how many people there are in this country that think that way, that whether they admit it or not with their rhetoric and with their language and actually admitting with their mouths, there are a lot of people who think that way with their and they show it with their behavior, but they never speak it. I
But they're
think
in the
that
minority, though. But they're in the minority. They're in the large minority.
I'm just
So
making the state. I'm just
there's a
making the
lot of
statement
them.
that it's under.
I
It's
understand that. I understand that. But there's a lot of them, but they're in the minority. So once again, I'm not interested. It's up to them. It's up to them to come back to civilized society and respect people. That's my point. Anthony, you said you want to say something?
Yeah, so some people will roll their eyes that have heard this before. So there's this gentleman, his name is Sir Karl Popper, and he wrote about the paradox of tolerance, in which if you keep accepting the intolerant, then your society becomes what you keep accepting. So
Exactly.
to Max's point, you can only go so far as a society, right? It doesn't mean that we're going to shun or ignore people, but to live in willful ignorance is a choice that they are making. And for Christians, right, they believe in turning the other cheek, but they actually really didn't actually read the passage before and the passage after, because that's not what that is saying, right? It's saying be tolerant, but it doesn't say to be tolerant forever, right? So there is no religious text. There is no ancient religious text in Asia or Southeast Asia that talks about being tolerant forever. As a matter of fact, a lot of the writings that came out of China thousands of years ago talk about how to have a proper and a well-run society. Tolerance is never mentioned, or an unlimited amount of tolerance, right? So we have to be very careful about how we're framing this, because at the end of my life, I don't want to be known as someone who is tolerant of the intolerant. I want to be known
Same.
as someone that does three things, right? First thing I do is I look for similarities before I look for differences. The second thing I do is I walk through life in peace and positivity. And the third thing is that I believe in my heart of hearts that the energy, the things I say, the way I treat people, and the way I put that out into the world, if it's negative, it will come back to haunt my family for 7 generations. If it's positive, it will positively impact the world for 7 generations. So I
Well said.
get what you're saying, but some people can't be reached either. And we talk about that a lot here, about how we've gone as far as we can, and we're just not going to go any further in that realm.
Agreed.
Yeah, I hear
Thank
that,
you,
and
bro.
I agree with that. When I make the statement of somebody needs to, I'm not saying that we need to be tolerant of the behavior. I'm saying that we need to address the behavior. I'm not saying that we need to have panels and discussions to verbally beat people into submission to acknowledging that they're wrong. I'm saying that by and large, as a society, we leave those people out in the cold and they're not exposed to anything necessarily directly challenging their thought process because they operate in an echo chamber where nobody can test what they believe. So I'm not trying to say that we need to be tolerant of them. And just FYI, that the equivalent of what you were saying in the Bible is cast not your pearls unto swine. Jesus said that.
Fair enough.
Don't throw your valuables to the pigs. So
That's right. Yeah.
I agree with that statement. We need not tolerate them, but as a nation, we need to take steps to correct it. Because right now, when I look around the world that we live in the United States, when I look around, the only thing that I see is nothing but media garbage that only demeans and only reinforces those thought processes and those beliefs in people who don't know better, who don't have somebody.
Yeah. It depends, though. It
I know
depends
that's a
on.
I
So
know that's a broad stroke. I know that's a
it
broad
is.
stroke.
It depends on what side of society you want to be on. Like you made a statement that it's up to us, the collective, to reach out to them to give them space. I disagree. It's up to them. They've already drawn their line in the sand, friend. That we know who they are, and I don't want to keep going around and around on this, but they know who they are. Now, again, I get it from your perspective, from a very idyllic perspective, and I understand that, and I appreciate it. I wish we were there. But I'm with Anthony. I am no longer going to, I don't tolerate the intolerant. I'm not going to platform them. And I think the majority of people would agree, especially women. Why should women want to engage with someone who says, just keep your legs closed? Why should women want to engage with people that are literally taking their rights away? Why should women want to have that conversation at all? Talk about taking up arms. Hell hath no fury, as we know. So
Yeah.
again, the conversation needs to shift away from it's our responsibility. It's their responsibility. They're the ones that made that bed. They got to lie in it. Thank you for our conversation, friend. I want to move on to some other people. I appreciate you joining tonight, though. Thank you very much.
All right, man. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Continue to like and share, guys. Really appreciate that. Thank you all very, very much. Please gift our panelists. We appreciate you.
Oh, can you hear me? Sorry.
No, we got you. Welcome. I said it. How are you? Hello?
I'm good. How are you doing?
We're doing good, thank you. What's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, so mandatory vasectomies, I agree, should not be in control. Like the government should have no say in the vasectomies. And I also agree with the abortions. A woman should have the right, to decide what to do. But I feel like there's a lot of women that probably should
Careful.
limit the amount that they. I'm trying.
Be careful, man. Listen,
It seems
think
I know.
about before you say it. Before you say it, think about what you're just going to say, because I know what you're going to say. and it's not going to go well for you.
Okay.
Okay?
I feel
It's
like
really
women
not.
use it too much.
Bro,
I feel
really.
like abortion should be an alternative,
Stop.
an
Stop for a
option.
second. Stop. Listen. Okay, I'm going to try to educate you here, okay? And I normally don't platform people. I'm going to try to educate you. What you just said is exactly the issue that we're talking about. You blamed women. Where's your responsibility in this? You could
So I have
literally
no
you could literally get 500 people pregnant over the course of a year. Do you have
say in what a woman can do.
you yourself could get 500 women pregnant over the course of a year, right? A woman could have one pregnancy. So where's your responsibility in this?
Firstly, choosing the correct partner and also trying to use preventative measures such as
Is
condoms.
it
And I get they don't always work. I get
right?
that. People
So
will say
so
that.
so so you can't have it both ways, friend. Do you respect a woman's right to bodily autonomy?
I do.
So then she's in complete control. She can decide what she wants to do with her body.
So you don't believe they should at least make an attempt to not reach that point of getting impregnated?
Okay. Again, did you hear what you just said? It's not just her. Can she get pregnant by herself?
No.
Okay. So she can't get pregnant by herself. Therefore, you're as much responsible, right? You could get 500 women pregnant a year. A woman could have one pregnancy a year, and yet you don't seem to think that you have as much, if not more, responsibility. Where's
No,
your control? Where's
I
your
had
self
already
control?
I already stated I would use, you know, preventative measures and at least inquire if she's on birth control and accept the responsibility of my actions if, you know, all types of birth control fail.
Okay, if she decides, if you don't plan on having a baby and she gets pregnant and she decides that she wants to have an abortion, you're cool with that, right?
I'm not, and before you get on to me,
I'm on to you. Too
I
bad. You're
still
done. Good
respect.
night. Good night. He had a chance.
Um,
He had a chance. He
he
tried.
he was pissing on the third rail.
I know. He was.
That
He
was
was.
well, and great job um not losing your shit because I was over here
I know.
trying not
Good
to say
evening.
anything.
Good evening, Ivory. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. I actually came on. I was listening to you, and the person that was on prior really was, ooh, that is who I wanted to say something to. But I'm very happy that you dropped him and everything that you were saying to him. It's um, very I want to pick the right words other than just absolutely infuriating that somebody can get up there and immediately say no to mandatory vasectomies, walk right past the point that you led him to, and then say, sure, it's fine, but, and then
But
everything after the but was just horrid. The fact of the matter is, it's not 50% responsibility. He is absolutely the catalyst to conception. He
yep,
has the choice of where he wants to leave his genetic material. After he discards of that genetic material, everything that happens after that, none of his say so. End of story, period. And you said the beautiful thing as far as leading him down the path of, sir, you can get people 500 people pregnant and she can have one pregnancy a year. It's hold on, I got to take a breath. This notion that women are somehow using this as birth control doesn't even make sense where we are in late stage capitalism with how much it would cost for somebody to be doing that. So it's just propaganda to, uh, again, blame a woman for their deeds. But he's against mandatory vasectomies. So
Yeah, I mean, I think his argument was a little twisted because he was against mandatory vasectomies because he doesn't want the government telling him what to do, but yet he wants to control women.
Right, because he somehow, they just shouldn't use it all the time. They should do
Exactly.
everything else. Sir,
Exactly.
you're the one that left your genetic material there. So if you don't
Exactly.
want women doing that, either don't leave it there or get a vasectomy.
That's right. That's right.
So,
I have a question for you, Ivory, and I'm
sure.
curious about your perspective on this. From the last conversation that we were having earlier, about meeting somebody in the middle. So, were
Mhm.
you here for that conversation? We were talking about how tolerance and intolerance and my unwillingness to reach people who just want women to close their legs. Were you here for that conversation? Did you hear
I
any of
was
that
not.
conversation?
I was getting my daughter ready for basketball practice, and then as soon as
Oh,
I
I get
dropped her,
that.
I scrolled in.
Well, let me. So,
Um,
out of context, what the conversation was, and we've been having a few of these. The question was, should those of us on the left be trying to reach out more to people on the right to try to change their minds about things like abortion? Um, I have I have made a decision for myself that I will match someone's energy when I have a conversation with them, but I don't think
mhm.
it's a responsibility of me to platform somebody who says women should just close their legs. And
Right.
our guest was thinking, well, they're part of our society. We have to live with them. And I'm like, but are they though? Are they part of our society? So I'm curious about your perspective on that. Let me ask the question specifically. Would you be willing to meet them, or do you feel like they should meet you?
I think as content creators and hosting a space like this, we have a responsibility to navigate the potential harm that that
Mm-hmm.
type of rhetoric can cause. And it's a very interesting question because I think that on any given day, I would probably look at it um, differently. I
Mm-hmm.
think that ultimately, um, we're not going to reach the people that have their minds made up, um, where they're standing 10 toes down. I
Mm-hmm.
think the ones that we could potentially reach are the ones that really don't have a thought on it, and maybe they are either one young or two uneducated on it and have just kind of repeated whatever their parents had believed, etc., or their peers. I
Yeah,
think those are the people that we could reach.
I agree with
Um,
that.
but somebody who is spouting really harmful ideology, I think is more dangerous to platform than trying to uh, educate them. And I certainly don't think that we can meet them in the middle. There is no middle on human rights.
Agreed. I'm glad you said that. That's exactly where I was going. There's no middle ground on human rights. You either prioritize them or you don't. And I think you said something very, very interesting too. And I think it's topic specific. Like there are things that would not necessarily be as emotional as a topic around abortion or human rights in general. Like we could be debating tax policy, or we could be
Right.
debating, whatever it might be. Sure, you can have you can bang heads on that and try to solve, but we're not talking human rights. We're not
Correct.
talking human rights. Yeah. No, I agree with you.
And
Well
it's
said. And
scary.
thank you for allowing me to ask you that question. I appreciate that. It is scary.
Absolutely. Uh, I even lose my words when I hear that type of stuff because
Mm-hmm.
I think he was and I'm now assuming, but from his profile picture, I'm assuming he is a cis whitey male um, who the first thing out of his mouth was, didn't want the government to be involved in his business, but
Exactly.
didn't
But
think
dot dot dot.
twice about the subjugation of women. And,
Exactly.
you know, as a woman, we're second class citizens. At this point in time, a
Mm-hmm.
corpse has more bodily autonomy than we do.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's true.
like, let that sink in.
That's really
Like,
true.
a unalived body
That's true.
cannot be harvested for organs to save potential lives or
Unless you
for
give them permission. That's
science.
right. That's right.
But
I never
yet
even thought about it that
we
way.
could be forced to carry.
Mm-hmm.
We are then wards of the state to be incubators. Like this is mind blowing. Um,
It really is, and that's part of the reason that we're having this conversation is to call out that hypocrisy that you're talking about. Although I'm not opposed to this at all, quite frankly, but I think it's really to identify the hypocrisy, and we've seen it on full display tonight. We really have.
well, and I think it's ultimately because women are seen as property,
Hmm.
and we still are.
Hmm.
Um, even for even for some of the most progressive of men, I think that sometimes they're still unpacking kind of this inherent um, bias that's been there. We see it even within our traditions. Even when you look at marriage, the father is giving away the bride to the husband.
I know,
They
right?
introduce it as Mr. and Mrs., Joe Smith. Um,
That's right.
you're not a person. You're not a complete person. When we see the body count topics, it's often we see women being referred to or compared to cars, and just completely dehumanizing language and reducing women down to an object. Talking about mileage and other just disgusting things.
You're right.
And I spoke to one red pillar who didn't believe that he was red pill, but was saying that, and he was a young guy, and I honestly thought he had good intentions, but ultimately he was saying that he was doing all of these things so that his byproduct of success would be getting a woman,
Mm.
um, or well, getting a female was actually what he said, and of course we had that conversation, but it's not. I'm like, what do you mean getting? Are you collecting them and putting them in your closet somewhere? What are you getting? Like, doesn't she have to like you as well? Or simply you reach a certain level of success and you're granted a a a woman of your choosing. Like it's just I don't know when this happens. I don't know why. And I
Well,
want to know why.
well, I think we know why. There's a video on my page that I duetted today, actually, that this gentleman is doing this incredible speech about saying, "I'm not going to let my boys play with dolls," and it kind of hits you off. I'm like, "Whoa, where's this going?" And he talks about until they understand the difference between property and women. And it's incredible. And I would encourage people. It's on my page. I think it's the first video after the pinned row, but it talks to exactly what you're talking about. And I think it's rooted in the patriarchy, which is rooted in the church. Which again, we know that women didn't even have the right to vote like 100 years ago. So
I mean,
they couldn't get a
voting
checkbook.
was still legal until 94. And
Exactly.
even now, it's the hardest thing to be prosecuted. We see
Exactly.
time and time again, even with DV cases, where finding, getting a conviction for it, even having witnesses, it's very, very hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, just look at what we've gone through trying to explain to people about the E. Jean Carroll case because it happened to be a civil decision by a jury. The people who support Trump will just won't accept it. Now, again, it's women blaming, it's victim blaming, it's saying that she liked it. I mean, it's all this shit, And as somebody who's a defender of women, I've got a daughter. Even if I didn't, I still would defend that bullshit because I think society. I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here. Society has failed men in many, many areas. And I'm not apologizing for that behavior. What I'm saying is that you called it out yourself, Ivory, is that you've got role models like, Andrew Tate's and Ben
Right.
Shapiro's and those pigs, and that young men believe that they're supposed to be like that. So when fathers have sons and the dad is an overbearing misogynist, and then he says, "I'm raising my son to be the same way," and then he has a daughter. So what's the message that he's telling his daughter? Is that you just so you know, daughter, you're going to grow up to be inferior to your brother because that's the way it's supposed to be. That's how society is failing young men and young boys.
I think of the common trope of a dad of multiple girls, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that you feel bad for him, like, oh, I know it's hard in your house. Are you gonna try again for a boy? No, because what if I get another girl? And we're conditioned to laugh at these things. This is routine topic
Mm-hmm.
of conversation. And I think as a woman, many of us have to unpack our own internalized misogyny there that we've
Mm-hmm.
grown up as well. Um,
Sure.
I think both men and women are taught not to like women. So women are having a hard time to even like ourselves.
It's
Because if
true.
you're told you're less than, how are you supposed to defend yourself? How are you supposed to advocate for yourself? If I'm
Yeah.
if I'm matter of fact, well then I'm a bitch. If I'm emotional because it's an emotional topic, well I'm hysterical. And
Right.
women, it wasn't too long ago that women were locked up for being hysterical,
Totally.
institutionalized.
Exactly right. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You're told that
Absolutely.
you're told you're supposed to be subservient and weak and inferior, and you grow up to be that way, and it's pitifully sad. Hashtag girl dad here, by the way.
Yeah,
But I get it. I hear what you're saying, and it's been good. I just followed you, Ivory, and it's been a pleasure getting to know
I
you, and I
followed you
appreciate
as
you
well.
joining tonight. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I've seen you on Mr. Jones Live as well, and
Yeah,
I've
I thought I
scrolled in quite
recognized
a
you.
bit.
I thought I recognized you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I, I appreciate this topic, and thank you for indulging me in the question I asked you because I think it's really important. Thank you very much. I
absolutely.
appreciate you.
Well, thank you. And for everybody who gifted, I really appreciate it very much. And I'll keep watching. And thank you for hosting these platforms and
You
these
got it. I
topics.
appreciate you, Ivory. Thank you. Have
All
a good
right.
night.
You too.
Bye. 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 I mean, she's right. I mean, it's the conditioning, right? I mean, it's the conditioning that little girls have. I mean, it's dangerous for boys too, right? I mean, we can't ignore that. We can't ignore that. The example that I gave, I've got friends that've got their boys, and they're like, "Oh, you tough guy." You can't. I mean, they're we young men are being conditioned to behave in a particular way. And that's why it's important to be engaged with your children as you raise them. Because if you want to have a better society, if you want to have better men, then you got to raise better men. If you want a society that's filled with empathetic and understanding and sympathetic men, then you got to model that. You got to give them examples, right? Give them examples. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you better. It doesn't make you beta. It makes you better. It makes you better, and that's the goal. So thank you for that conversation, Ivory. I appreciate that. Thank you, friends. Continue this conversation. This is great.
Hi,
Big Nick, how are you tonight?
well, thank you for bringing me on. I
Sure.
just had to hit the join when I heard you say that you're a girl dad. I'm a girl dad 2 times over. So,
Awesome.
and I'm a very liberal guy, right? I think I'm to the left of Bernie, right? So,
Okay.
um, and I had to reconcile or come to the well, let me put it this way. I consider myself a alpha guy, right? I consider myself a caveman, right? Like Big Birdie, right? But I do try to be conscious of how I feel that a man is portrayed, right? So in my household, I don't believe in gender assigned roles in my household. Like I don't believe a man should take out the trash. I don't believe a woman should only wash the dishes or cook or vice versa. I don't believe in that, right? I believe in your kids are going to be who they are innately. With that being said, how do guys like me that are liberal, that do respect women, and by the way, as a man like myself, I hate when people criticize a woman over quote unquote body count. That is so unfair because that is one of the most innate things that we as humans possess. Right? That is just something that we're drawn to. We have no control over it. I mean, we can decide not to do it, but we can't stop the want to do it, right? So to speak. But how do a liberal guy like me get past the point that I want my 3-year-old son now to grow up and be just like me? Tonka toys, football, hanging. I don't want to direct him to that because I want him to be who he is. But I can't hide my own inner emotions inside that I do want him to be like that. I would love him no matter what, respect him no matter what, and support him no matter what. But how do we get past the point of this is the expectation of my son when it comes to uh, testosterone, or manliness? How do I reconcile that?
Okay. So, I would say there's a couple of things. There's a couple of things that gave me a little bit of caution, I must say, about some
Okay,
of the things that you said.
I can explain.
Um,
Yeah.
okay. Well, let me just see if I can unpack it first. First of all, you said it was your house. Are you married?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. All right. So, why do you have to worry about how your son or daughters grow up? Meaning,
No,
why can't let me just finish. Why can't you just be the best dad that you can be and then allow them to just be the individuals that they grow into?
but that is exactly what I said. I don't want to control them. I don't want to direct them to anything that they're not supposed to be other than who they are or what they are, right?
Okay.
I completely agree with that. What I'm asking
Okay.
you is that I do feel innately that I want to make sure my son plays with Tonka toys, play football,
Right.
but I would never put that assertion on him. I
Right.
would
But why though?
never,
But why does that matter? What if your son just started playing with Barbie?
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's
But
my
I think
point.
it does. But I think it does to you.
No,
I
no.
think.
What I'm asking is that I really do. I would accept him. I don't have a problem with it, right? But what I'm saying is that I guess it's the conditioning that, the indoctrination that I have had all my life. I'm 53, and
Yeah.
just like you said, like I said, men, boys play with Tonka toys, boys fall down, scrape their knees, boys climb trees, do those types of things, right? And I understand that conditioning thought process has happened to me. I'm trying to not trying to break it. I'm actually breaking it, right? Because I don't expect my son to do anything except for what my son does.
Cool.
But on the inside, I still want my son to grow up big burly looking like you with a big beard. But I know it's not my decision. Just because I want it to happen doesn't mean I make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I'll give you I'll use a personal example. I played sports all through high school and college. I played baseball, basketball, football. I used to be a ski racer. I lettered in 3 sports. I went to college on a baseball scholarship for 2 years. I get it. My boys weren't interested in team sports. Did I want them to be? Yeah, because it was something that was
Right.
it was really important to me, but it wasn't important to them. So they have other interests, and I embrace those interests as if they were the most important things in my life because they were the most important things in their life.
Absolutely.
That's so that
Absolutely.
that would that would be my answer. So instead of because I get it, I understand that it's a fair question. I get it, but instead of worrying about that, Nick, I would say focus on whatever it is that your kids are interested in and give 1,000,000% to that in support of them.
And I agree. And again, just for complete transparency, it's not a worry as to what they're doing.
Okay,
It's a worry as to my own thought process of what a man or a woman is. I don't I know they're conditioned. I know they're indoctrinated thought processes, right? But
sure.
for 53 years, it's a part of who I am, and I just can't turn off it on the inside how I feel just because I support it on the outside a different way. Like I want to get rid of that whole toxic masculinity of what a man should be. I don't even
Yeah,
want the thought process. And that process, that thought process, even if we don't act upon it, could be a part of the problem as to, like the last lady said, can take away that ownership feeling that men try to have over females. You know.
yeah. I think what it is. I think there's and don't take this the wrong way. I think you got to work through some misogyny, whether it be
Right.
latent or obvious. But I
Right.
think there's some of that that's in there. I think you have a particular view of how men are supposed to be in society,
Yes. I
and I
admit that.
think yeah, and that's okay. I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we're having this conversation, Nick.
Right.
So I would think going forward, like we talked about, just embrace what your kids are, not who you want them to be, because it's their
Absolutely.
life. Because it's their
And
life.
I don't know if I necessarily have a vision of what a man should be as more as to what I believe me personally as a man should be. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to put it on. I would never group say, hey, that's not manly, right? It's just my
Yeah.
own weird definition and understanding of what a man is, and I don't
Okay.
hold that
So
against you. I just hold it against me, right?
I
Like
got you. I got you. So here's a question for you. If you're How old is your son? Did you say 3?
he's 3 years old. I
Okay.
had
So
him
say
at
for example.
50.
Okay. Good for you. So if your son comes home, probably not in preschool yet, but getting to that point
Right.
soon, right? So if your son comes home from preschool one day with his fingernails painted, what are you gonna do?
It's a Gen Z thing. That's literally how I think.
Okay, so no,
I would
how
not
about you?
equate it to sexuality.
Okay, well, good, but how about I love those colors. Those are really, really cool.
You understand? Now you understand what I'm saying because you
I do.
specifically picked that route. You understand exactly what I'm saying.
I do.
Although I would absolutely love to be able to say that, it's still just by hearing me and thinking about me saying that makes me cringe. And it shouldn't because I don't care who you choose to love.
Good. Well, I mean, look. We're not even talking about this from a sexual orientation
Right, right,
perspective.
right, right,
He's
right,
just a 3-year-old kid
right,
who saw
right.
somebody with colorful nail polish and wanted his fingernails painted. So don't. So you allowed your own misogyny to kind of creep in there, Nick, by saying you immediately equated it to sexuality. Don't do that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. I shouldn't have went that far because I took
Yeah.
the 3-year-old. I took the 3-year-old equation out of it.
Yeah.
What I should say is that no, I wouldn't say, oh, those are very pretty colors. The misogyny part that I would put there would be, those are cool colors. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know what would be
you know what I mean? Like I would change the phraseology, and that's the
sure.
problem I have. I shouldn't have to change the phraseology.
You know what would be better, Nick? You know, a massive step would be for you and your son to go to the drugstore and buy the same color and have him paint your fingernails for you.
You're talking to a caveman. Baby steps. Okay, no,
Dude,
I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I wouldn't have a problem
I
with
get
that.
it. I get it. No, I totally understand. I totally
But
understand. And
but
that's what
I
we're
can be
talking
a
about.
caveman. I can be a
Sure.
caveman and be 100% progressive though, as well.
Sure. Well,
Right?
you again though, but you got to be mindful of that because words matter. Don't forget your son at 3 years old, they're going to model you. That's what our children do,
Correct.
right? So
Correct.
if you're gonna
I'm sorry.
that's okay. If you're gonna, I'm not gonna say criticize, but question his painting his fingernails, and that's gonna land on him the wrong way. Because if he
Absolutely.
ever feels like he wants to paint his fingernails, I gotta hide it from dad. I can't because dad doesn't like them. If that's how
Absolutely.
you, so that's dangerous. So I think you get it, man. I think you get it. I think you get it.
One
Continue
last thing.
down.
I don't think I will question his fingernails being painted at 3,
And
7,
we're
10.
just using that as an example. We're just
Right.
using it as an
No,
example, but I think
right.
it's a good one.
But while we're on that example, what I'm saying, I don't think whatever this applies to, I don't think I would question at 3, 7, 10, 20, 30. I don't think I would question that. But what I'm afraid of is that I wouldn't match his energy as to how he feels about his nails being painted.
Fair.
It doesn't mean I don't support him or I don't think it looks bad, looks well on him or he's not happy. It doesn't mean any of that. I'm afraid that I'm so masculine driven that I wouldn't match his energy about his nails being painted, even if I
I would
support
take
him.
Well, like you said, baby steps, Nick.
Baby
Baby
steps,
steps.
baby steps.
Baby steps. Okay?
Thank you for bringing me up. I'm a
You got it,
caveman.
man.
I love being a caveman, but I'm also progressive.
It's all good, brother. It's all good.
All
Thanks a
right,
lot for
thank you.
joining.
All righty,
Appreciate you. Have a good night.
you as well.
I got you, man.
You want
I
to
mean,
know
that's that.
a super weird fact?
Sure.
So, in the days of Greeks, when they would go fishing, guess who was in charge of knitting fishing nets?
Oh yeah, the men. Totally.
Men.
Oh yeah. No doubt
Knitting
about it.
knitting was 100% a man's job. Now, how funny is it that when people talk about social norms and the should, could, and would, and I would prefer that they didn't play with dolls. Men have been doing this and adorning themselves with makeup and painting their nails and doing knitting and playing dress up forever,
I know.
right?
Yeah, and
But
that's not the only example I wanted to give, but I thought it made a lot of sense only because I think it would apply. Like we're trying to,
100%. Yeah,
move
no,
the needle forward.
I've painted my nails when my
Me too.
daughter was young, and they would
Totally.
do a toenail for me, all pretty, you know.
Yeah,
The
my toes are
hell,
painted now, as a matter of fact.
everybody needs a nice pedicure. That's all I got to say.
Agreed. I agree. Jeremiah, you got a lot of feedback, bro. I'm just gonna mute you real quick and try to unmute now.
It's got the red bars too. There we go.
You can unmute Jeremiah. You just had some feedback there. Hey there, how are you?
Well, I just have a very
How are you?
good. How are you? I just have a very small point, and it comes from my Army days. I actually spent 8 years in Germany, and they had something called Kindergeld. Because I'm assuming the reason a lot of people have abortions is because they can't afford it. So literally, the answer to it is make it affordable to have that baby. Because look, with China, population control never works.
I think you're kind of missing
It
the
and
point here, Jeremiah.
yeah.
I think you're kind of missing the point here, bro. Do you respect a woman's right to bodily autonomy?
Oh yeah, 100%. I was raised by two moms. I fucking you can't get more pro women than me.
Okay. Well, just because you're raised by two moms doesn't necessarily mean you would be pro women. But I'm just curious. You got a lot
Well,
of feedback, bro.
I'm just saying I have
So
a.
I'm gonna mute you real quick. You got a lot of feedback. So why don't you try to unmute again and see if that cleared it up a little bit? Yeah, Jeremiah, you got those red bars, bro. I'm gonna drop you down. Please request you can come back. We can finish this conversation. We've had a lot of feedback though. Okay. We
This
already
is why
talked.
the infrastructure bill needs to have free Wi-Fi for everyone.
Did we already talk to I Said It? We already talked to I Said It, didn't we? We did. We had a conversation with him. Okay.
Hi, guys.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. How
Hello.
are you?
Thank you for joining.
Absolutely. Thank you.
What's on your
I just
mind?
want to say
What's on your mind?
I think that he did a great job. I think that he is a dad that is trying to undo an entire life's work of being told what you're supposed to think.
Totally agree.
He is free thinking. He is trying. He is preparing at 3 years old for a potential. And I just want to give kudos because that is not the work of a subpar dad or someone who doesn't care about their kid. That is someone who's like, they're
Here,
three,
here,
but what do I do if? And
here, here.
I just want to commend him. I don't know if he's still into her or not, but like, good job, Dad. You're doing it right.
And I wasn't trying to trivialize that conversation with
Oh no, I don't
fingernails, but
think you did.
I thought it was just an analogy that applied in this case. So there you go.
Oh no, I thought it was great. I had kind of a different point. A different thought I was thinking about earlier today. Of course, everything's it's popping off. It's 2024. It's time to talk about all the things, and stuff's getting sketchy. I was thinking about though, I say we, I'll say my husband and I. So I don't want to classify liberals or independents or Republicans even. I don't want to classify anybody, but when you say it's a woman's right to choose, which I 100% am on the side of, so I want to clarify that. I also I have a hard time reconciling that the people who are fighting so hard for this, for pro-life, a lot of them, it is based in religion. We do know that, and I am a Christian. I'm not a good one, but I try. But I am, but I don't feel, enforce my religious beliefs on anyone else, which is why I have the stance that I do. But I wonder if there's any other way. I do not have the answer. So please don't think that I'm coming like I have the solution. Is there another way to meet some of these people in the middle with the medical discussions? Is there a way that we're not doing it? I don't think there are that many people that are fighting for the right to have recreational birth control driven abortions. Not today. Are there? Yes. But I'm talking about the medical side of it, which I think everybody is pretty much, that's the main thing people are up in arms about from my perspective. I could be.
We lost you there, Gator.
I
You want to
want
unmute? Okay. Okay. Sorry.
autonomy with my physician.
You got. I gotta mute you. You got some. Did you get a phone call, Gator? You might have got a phone call. You can try to unmute if you want to. You can unmute, Gator. I think if I understand your question, you kind of want to make it just about the medical decisions as opposed to everything else that goes along with it. Is that right?
I think that I wonder, I can't say I think because I don't know, but I wonder if that couldn't be a better starting point. We have focused so heavily, I feel like it's both sides screaming at each other. It's my right. No, it's not. That's a life. Okay, I understand. But what can we do? How can we start a conversation? I don't know, or I would do it. How can we start a conversation that's more medically driven? Like, hey, let's try to get through and reach people going, not everybody wants this for shits and gigs. Okay. Like some people need this to save their life or that unborn child to not have to go through misery. I just don't know. I question these things out loud. Hey, here's a
Sure.
platform. Anybody else have an idea? Does anybody else
Sure.
have?
This is sort of similar to the conversation that we were just having
Right.
regarding, the intolerance of or the tolerance of intolerance in that whole conversation. I mean, Anthony's an expert on this, and I want to get his perspective on this. But I'm not interested in meeting those people. To be honest with you, Gator.
Right.
And I don't mean to sound cynical and or cold because I'm a people person. I love having conversations with people. But if people have dug in I mean, we've had this conversation and people say it's just unaliving kids
Right.
and women should keep their legs closed and all this kind of shit. And I have no tolerance for that. I'm not going to engage with people like that.
Oh,
I'm not.
when that type of rhetoric starts going on, I'm absolutely checked out as well.
Because yeah, it doesn't feel to me like there's even middle ground because it's one
Right.
thing people can say, because you always hear it, and we've had some guests up tonight who've woven their misogyny into that conversation even without even knowing it because it's just built in. Anthony, what's your perspective?
Yeah, so I'm gonna use an interesting analogy, but I'll be brief. So when motorcycling, there's this concept of setting up a turn, right? So at the very beginning, you want to feather your brake, but before you get to the apex of a turn, you need to be on the accelerator because that's what helps right the bike and get the tires to grip, right? So, in context here, we are well past the apex of a turn with people. There is no need at this point to be tolerant of the intolerant, and there is no need at this point to try to have the conversation. Now, that's not definitive, right? There's always going to be exceptions because that's just how mathematics works its way. But as a nation, we have gone so far off the rails in the last, say, 35 years, thanks to talk radio, Rush Limbaugh, Bill O'Reilly, Fox News, conspiracy stuff, right? Trump isms, that there is no need to set the table. Now, I'm not saying don't try, but
Right.
in the month or so that Fax and I have been kind of partnering here, we keep coming to the realization that the reason why we only get trolls because trolls are the only thing left. The people who were willing to have a reasoned conversation, an adult conversation, they're not engaging us not only in these spaces, but in open spaces in society. They're not. When we have gotten to the point to where people are objecting to books in a library,
Right.
I think that there's no reaching people at that point, right?
Yeah. And
When
that's what
the
that's what feels so sad. I think that
it
is what is so heavy for everyone right now is everything. Golly, it's hard to just be sad all the time about everything. I'm sad about my choices with my body. I'm 41 years old. I have two 20-year-olds and a 16-year-old, and I have been told to have the hysterectomy that I need. My husband will still have to come in and give permission.
Mm,
Nobody is more pissed off about that than my husband.
I'm sure.
He's like, are you kidding me? You're 41 years old. You were done having babies 16 years ago. The eggs
That's
are
right.
rotten, guys. Let them go. Take the steps. What's the deal? We're done here. The shop is closed. Okay, the shop is closed. The eggs are
Turning
old.
the sign. I'm turning the sign around.
We're done. It's closed for business. Okay, we are entering our grandparent era. Okay, in the next 10 years, the likelihood of us being grandparents with 3 children of these ages is high. I'm not looking to have any more. My husband did have a vasectomy. We did do that. We did that when she was 2 months old. Okay. I had her at Christmas. He had a vasectomy at Valentine's Day. Everybody said, how could you give him a
Happy Valentine's
Yeah,
Day, honey.
they said, and I'll tell you, it's a little crass. Listen, they said, how could you get him a vasectomy on Valentine's Day? Listen, my taint was stitched shut on Christmas, and his balls are stitched closed for Valentine's Day. And from now on, every holiday will be consequence free. We hope. We hope. That doesn't mean. Ask anybody that works in labor and delivery how often tubals fail. Vasectomies fail on the regular, okay? You can have all these things and still get pregnant. My 20-year-old first son, he's a birth control baby.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're going to ask the world to be celibate, you're going to be going against our entire civilization for the whole beginning of the world. Cut the shit. Let's get birth control free for everyone everywhere. Let's get every resource that people need up and going. And if we could focus and shift, if we have to leave these people behind, we leave them freaking behind in their beliefs. But if we could get back to actual government and politics and get out of everybody's vag and out of our bedrooms and out of our marriages, then we would actually be working on our country. But they are so invested in my vagina. I don't understand. I told you the eggs are rotten. Get out. Okay. Can we just move along, build bridges and stuff, you know?
Yeah, I don't have anything else. I can't touch that. That's a mic drop moment, friend. That's a mic drop moment. You just got a new follower.
Can we make a T-shirt that says "Get out of my vagina and
That's
build bridges"? Because
That's
that
all
would
I
be an
want.
awesome
Get out of my
T-shirt.
vagina. Let's build some bridges. That's all I want. Okay. Bridges fall all the time. Only person that has to worry about my vagina falling is me and my husband. And I'll go to the doctor and get that fixed. But that bridge, that's everybody's problem.
Damn straight.
Can we work
Thank
on
you.
that?
I'm on it.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
topic of our next live. Thank you very much, Gator,
Have
for
a great
joining
time,
tonight.
guys.
Really appreciate it. See you later.
Bye.
All right, bye. That's awesome.
Every
Holy
once
moly.
in a while, these gems show up on a live, right?
Yeah.
Like, first of all, I don't drink, but if I was going to have a drink, I would like it to be with her because that was fucking awesome.
Cheers. Exactly. That was awesome. Okay, Electric Gal, how are you tonight? Electric Gal? I had to disconnect her quietly. I didn't want to wake her. That's funny.
Okay, so is it my hair? Is it the beard? Is it the fact that we wear hats? Like what was it that just put that that guest to sleep?
Got some good flow. That's some good head. Look at that. Oof, man.
Yeah. You've got good hair.
Yeah, it's all there. It's all there.
Yeah.
Not going anywhere. Okay. See a lot of friends in the box. I'll get you guys, I promise. Just we're working through. Diverted, how are you tonight?
Hi, doing good, thanks. How are you doing?
Doing fine, thank you. What is on your mind?
Well, so first I gotta give some really good points to the gal that was talking, just not the snoring one, the other gal.
Right.
We're different in age. We've both got kids that are well, mine are 17 and then down to little guys. So I figured I'd weigh in on two points real quick. One,
Sure.
that was wondering about what to do about kind of erasing that programming or getting past that programming. I know you already kind of touched on that, but practice, man, practice. If he's still in here, if there's anybody else with similar questions, that's kind of the only way to do it. And be okay with being embarrassed about something. You know, when you mess up, it's okay to be embarrassed about it and then keep going. I
Oh,
kind of
you
like.
mean when it comes to parenting? We talking about when it comes to parenting?
Yep,
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much house on that front. You know,
totally,
the number of
totally.
times that shirt that's got the curse word on it to the bus stop because you forgot that it was on. You know, whether it's that or you don't quite match energy when your kid comes home with something different going on.
Yep.
You feel
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
be cool with them and say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, I missed that cue, and I was thinking about it. And when you articulate with them and apologize to them and you give them your thought process when they're old enough to do that, I mean, obviously
Yeah.
three's a little young, it
Yeah,
helps.
I'll give you a real life example. So I had a rule in my house that there's no yelling. That's what kind of a rule that we like to follow. And I remember my kids when they were little, they were younger. My daughter I think was 2 before she got sick, so my boys would have been 7 and 5 respectively, and they were upstairs and they were just screaming at each other. They were playing. I'm at the bottom of the stairs. I'm saying, "Hey, there's no yelling in this house. Why are you guys yelling?" And they all came out to the top of the stairs and looked at me like, Dad, the only one yelling is you. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Yep.
So that's to the point, to your point. Like we're human, right? We make mistakes, but accountability is key. And I've become a better parent because of the mistakes that I've made.
Yeah, and being okay with apologizing to your kids, understanding that it doesn't mean you're a failure as a parent or that you're subservient to your kids all of a sudden, but just that you see them as small humans,
Mm-hmm.
that you are in charge of corralling, of pushing in the right direction, and then they can see you as a human too, and largely they'll reflect your energy.
That's right. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's positive energy. Hopefully.
Yeah, the only other point, real quick, was that when it comes to meeting anybody in the middle, when it comes to, uh, you know, medically necessary abortions or abortions at all, um, I think probably everybody that was talking here agreed that it just is not worth the energy anymore because it is so ideological and not fact based. But one thing that I've personally found to work with some people who are on the fence is reclaiming the concept of being pro life and pairing it with quality of life. And when you're discussing the concept of having access to, say, um, comprehensive sexual education, prophylactics, whatever the items are, um, highlighting the fact that this is all being pro-life because it is the only thing that's been proven to reduce abortions.
Mm.
You know, and like I said, you're not going to get the ideologues with that one, but anybody who's
Right.
not sure, they often respond really positively to that, taking it
Right.
away from emotional appeal, all that kind of thing, and just standing on their own vernacular, standing on their own commentary of being pro-life and truly being pro-life instead.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right, and you touched on something, and I talked about this before. I am a hardcore advocate for age appropriate sex ed.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the reasons, one of the issues that we have in Western society is that, especially if you connect it to people's religious beliefs about, like we're supposed to be ashamed of our bodies, or sex is something you don't talk about. It's private. Lights got to be off, stuff like that.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
if you have age appropriate sex ed, you can start to talk about good touch, bad touch, and what consent is, and all those kinds of things. And I think that's an example of how we could potentially evolve as a society. We already know that the incidences of sexual assault go unreported because women feel
absolutely,
people feel shamed, right? And
absolutely.
I, I've seen a bit of a shift. I think a little bit. I think young people, Gen Z, have been exposed to more conversations like this about those topics. I
Mm-hmm.
hope that changes some of the narratives, but I've always been an advocate for age appropriate sex ed. Always.
Absolutely. And of course, then, as you touched on, SA and how much it reduces the chances that it'll go unreported, because, of course, then they're teaching them real names instead of
Right.
cutesy names that could be misunderstood of, you know, cookie is probably the one I have heard the most as an example, because when a
Sure.
child tells you that so and so is doing something and using that terminology, it's just taken in stride as if they're just talking.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's horrific to think about, but absolutely, no, totally agree.
Cool. Thank you, Diverted. Appreciate your perspective on this evening. Appreciate you.
Oh,
Thanks a lot.
so much for this, and cheers.
Yeah. Have a good night. Be well.
You too.
Reasoned, simple, straightforward, honest position,
Exactly.
right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
make these lives so wonderful is hearing people at different stages in their lives, from different backgrounds, different geographicals, but coming in and understanding the reasonable part, right? And
Mhm.
that's why I want us to keep trying to find similarities so we can have
Mhm.
reasonable dialogue, right?
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I think perspectives are wide range. I mean, we've touched that. We've
Yeah.
spoken to all kinds this evening. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
MP Rosenica, trying to bring you up, bro. Doesn't look like you're in the box anymore, but you can request again. Sorry about the delay. Okay, we'll go to Divik. uh, Divik, how are you tonight?
Oh, where'd Divic
Okay.
go? Divic has
It
left the
was the
building.
beard. It just
By the way,
intimidated her apparently. Yeah.
ladies, I'm barefoot in the kitchen again, so try to control yourselves, please.
And guys, I mean, we're equal opportunity.
And guys, and my wife, Jen, I know you're listening. I hope you didn't drop the leash or trip or something when I said that or get too embarrassed. I love you, Jen.
You know how I've said I'm looking forward to coming out and visiting you? I am not so sure anymore, quite frankly. Hi, Dana. How are you tonight?
Oh, quite well, thank you. No, I've been listening for a little while on and off, and this is an area close to my heart. I have come to the conclusion I don't think necessarily mandatory vasectomies, but I do believe that women who have been impregnated should be able to have genetic testing done, prove who the father is, and then he should be held financially responsible. That, I think, might correct some problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think this conversation that we're having is intentional to try to call out some of the hypocrisy that exists. Although I believe that men should carry some of the burden that women have had to carry for as long as humans beings have been on this planet. Your point is
Thank you.
interesting. I think there's all kinds of nuances to that. I certainly don't.
Indeed.
I would have no problem with that at all. No problem at all. It doesn't.
That's
It
really
doesn't. It doesn't.
been.
It doesn't fix the fact. It doesn't change the fact that we're trying to prevent some pregnancies in this regard. But yours is sort of an after the fact kind of scenario. But I appreciate that perspective.
No, it is an after the fact, but unfortunately, too often that's when it all comes out. When I remember, I was 18, I discovered I was pregnant. Mr. Wonderful had already left me for another girl,
Mm,
and he said he would pay for the abortion, but he wouldn't pay to support the child.
mm,
Uh, I chose to abort. My family was in a bad situation. I was in college. It was a mess.
mm,
And I knew it just was not the right thing at that time. And the father was, an alcoholic. And even though I was 18, I kind of knew this was person in the long run could not, you know, handle the responsibility.
yeah, we see that. I mean, everybody's circumstances, and I would never judge anybody's individual circumstance when it came to a situation like this. But I think to your point, there should be mechanisms within our system that would allow what you just described to happen without it becoming a big deal. I think what we're trying to do is obviously, like I said, to call out the hypocrisy and then to identify ways in which our society could be better by not putting all of these burdens on women, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, let's for starters, let's get Roe v. Wade back. That
Yeah,
would be real nice. I think
it
that's the
would.
very should have been put in ages ago. That should have been incorporated in the Constitution because
Totally agree.
it really has created or set up women to be second class citizens. And
Yep.
now what they want to do, I really believe the Republican Party has decided they want to go back to 1945. I think
Somewhere
that
around
is
there.
their,
Yeah.
yeah, where women were stayed in the kitchens unless they were working to help the war effort. And the, brown people didn't look white people in the eye. And yeah,
Nope.
that was great.
Yep.
Good times for
Different,
everybody.
different bath. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what they want. It seems they made it pretty obvious. Hi.
I,
They made it
I
pretty they made it pretty
yeah.
obvious that that's the society that they want. They want us to go backwards, and that's why people, when they hear "Make America Great," that's why they get offended by it, because when was it great for everybody?
I've been asking that for years. No,
Right.
it's very true. I really want to thank you
Sure.
for doing this. I think you're wonderful. I've listened to you a couple times, and thank you for
Thank you,
having me
Dana.
on.
Thank you, Dana.
All right.
Appreciate you. Have a good night.
I will.
All
You
right. Bye.
too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Facts. We
Oh,
both agree that you're incredibly handsome.
Thank you very, very much. And I will
And
blush appropriately. Thank you very much for that.
even
Appreciate
though
that.
Jen is from Massachusetts, we'll still love her anyway.
Okay.
Wicked pissa, dude. Like, whatever,
Yes,
dude.
wicked pissa.
Only people from New England get that joke.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Oh.
Oh, I haven't spoken to V in a while. That's cool. Hey there,
Oh.
V. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Doing fine, thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. You too. I'm a little bit busy. I just literally rescued a 10-week-old little girl, puppy. So, yeah, she didn't have a permanent home and it was kind of a terrible situation for her. So she's just been here like 2 days. So,
Wow.
the boys are really they're okay with her. They watch her like mother hens. The cats are still not quite sure. It's going to take time with the cats, as it always does, but never a dull moment, that's for sure. So, how you been? You been okay? How's
Been
your
okay.
fur baby?
Doing well. Went to the vet today. Was the star of the show until another younger puppy came in, and was like, "Wait a second here. I'm supposed to be the cute one."
Uh-huh.
But he's doing great. He's doing great. Thank you for asking.
You're
He's
welcome.
doing
He's
great. Yeah,
a daddy's boy too, huh?
just a little bit. Yeah, don't tell anybody.
You know he is.
Don't tell anybody. Just a little bit.
Okay, shh. I won't.
Yeah.
So yeah, just it's been a great conversation tonight. I really appreciate everyone's stories and everything and their truth. And I thank you so much again for offering a platform for us just to speak what a lot of people may not realize what happens with girls and with women. And I have a suggestion. If I was like in charge of the world, if I could wave my magic wand, so for every Pew Pew store, there would be at least one Planned Parenthood. Or at least one, clinic whereby anyone could go in and get, treated with respect and have really good care that's affordable or free. And I think that would be a way to really, education is so important. In fact, when I taught high school at a really large district, the nurse would stop by my classes. I mean, she went to everyone's class and just introduced herself and said, if you're going to act like an adult, you need to protect yourself like an adult. And they got really candid with all of the illness, the STDs and STIs that can happen, and really informed young people about, it's not just, glamorous, or, it's not how you think it might be. I mean, these are real life situations. And so anyway, education is just so important, and having an avenue, especially for young girls, to go, and because they may not have any support at home, but at least they can know they could go somewhere and be treated with respect and dignity, and also to find out other things that possibly are going on at the home,
Right.
so someone can advocate for them, because so many things just get passed over. So many women, young girls, are so afraid to come forward. I mean, now it's so much better. It's getting better. But for years, it was just, you keep quiet, you don't talk about it,
Right.
you just live with it as long as you can. And, at some point when you get older, you just can't carry that burden your whole life. I mean, it affects people and it affects everything, not just you, but your relations with other people, with your family, with your friends, your job. I don't think people realize just how devastating it can be. And it's very, very common in the US alone. It's like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 girls or women are SA'd before, a certain age, a very young age.
I
And
know.
nobody talks about this really. And it also happens to little boys too. It's not as common, but it does happen. And
Hmm.
I think it's worse for men because they're told to never talk about it, and just keep it a secret. And we've got to normalize mental health and advocating for people who have had to endure these horrible atrocities in life. And so this helps for sure. Just getting the conversation going and keep fighting for, what's right and to do right by young people, especially because that's where it starts. And a lot of times they just don't have support at home or anywhere, unfortunately. It's rare that they ever have family that can help them, or who want to help them. So,
Yeah, I was just going to say that, V. I mean, we've had conversations. Anthony may remember this. It was a few weeks back where um, the conversation had kind of gotten off the rails a little bit with this gentleman. I perhaps gave him a little bit too much space, but I asked him. I said, what would happen if your daughter, if there was an accident, if she was out with her boyfriend and something happened? And his response was, my daughter would never let that happen.
I think I remember
And
that
I'm
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was awful. And I'm just like, so it was horrible. It was a horrible conversation because again, in his mind, he's protecting his daughter, but he's actually harming her to the point where she's going to need years of therapy.
Mhm.
And she's never going to be able to talk to him. And the conversation I was having earlier when I suggested that a 3-year-old son, if he came home and showed his dad his fingernails, what would happen? The reason I brought that up that way was because you want to condition your kid that if you can start with the little conversations, then the big conversations later in life will be a hell of a lot easier, right?
Right. Right.
So yeah. So and I just had a situation like that with one of my kids about something that was very personal to them, but because we've had that relationship our whole lives, it made it easy for them to come to me with it, which I'm proud about, quite frankly. And I
Oh,
would
I
I
am
would
too.
I would wish
Yeah.
that for everybody. I would wish that for everybody. But you're right, V. The people don't even feel safe in their own home
Mm-mm.
to be able to
No.
have those conversations with their. Can you imagine growing up in a conservative household where you're told what to think, how to believe, what your faith is, and
Mhm.
yet you have these feelings about your sexuality, for example, and you're just so afraid to talk to somebody about it in your own house because you feel like you're going to be shunned, and we know that many kids have been shunned,
Mhm.
and that's just so sad. It's just so sad, so
A lot
sad.
of these kids, I mean, you see them on the street and you talk to them and it's like, why are you homeless? Well, it's like, well, I came from a middle class home and such, but my parents chose their religion, their evangelical Christianity over me. And I was, it's just, we see these stories a lot. So it's not always how people think. And I can't imagine doing that to a child, but it happens so much. Or, if the the monster is in the home, like it's a stepfather, it's a dad, an uncle, and
Yeah,
sometimes moms, unfortunately, or dads don't. There's not an adult that believes the child, and they just dismiss it.
exactly.
And they're like, "Well, this is the breadwinner of the home. We don't talk about that. I don't believe you. You keep it up, I'm going to kick you out. Maybe
Right.
you're doing something to entice this person." It's always putting the blame on the kid, and oh my goodness. I mean, this just happens so much. We just don't, it's a horrible problem that was hardly ever talked about. And hopefully more and more young people or people will come forward and share when they're ready, and there'll be someone there to advocate and help them. And I really wish they get rid of the statute of limitations, because we know with technology, with DNA, and this is for anything, like someone's case could be someone that's was unalived or whatever, and they don't know who did it. With technology, we could give that person justice and closure. And the same goes
Right.
for women and men that have been S8 and with technology, we could also solve cases. I don't understand why there's statute of limitations. I mean, everyone should have a chance, as soon as the technology catches up to the crime. So,
I would agree.
yeah, but
Well, thank you, V, for your wise words as ever, and thank you for rescuing yet another
I know.
animal.
I live like the modern day Snow White. I swear, it's just so crazy. I just
say, or a zoo, whatever it is.
I wake up and the birds are literally chirping. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, it's not a perfect life by any means, and Lord knows I've shared some things with you that I'm going through that are just very arduous, and oh my goodness. But anyway, but I am so thankful for animals, and we've just got to be kinder to people, kinder to animals, and kinder to the planet. It's just that simple. It is just that simple. Agreed. So anyway, I thank you so much. Big hugs to you, and
you're welcome.
Thank you. You take care, and I'll talk to you soon online, okay?
Reach out, okay, if you need something, okay? You know where to find me.
And I thank you so much for answering back. Take care. Mwah. Thank you.
I got you. See you later. Take care. Be well. All right, bye. Love you too. Be well. I got you. Okay. Moving through, guys. Continue to like, share. Much appreciated. Thank you all. Can we get to 100K? It's been a struggle. I'm y'all Huckleberry. Good evening. How are you?
Doing okay. How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Doing fine. Yeah, I can hear you fine. What's on your mind?
No, I just saw this. I'm just thinking that, this push for males to have all these vasectomies just to prevent all the pregnancies or whatever. I mean, keep in mind. I mean, realistically, if men were the ones who got pregnant, I would say that men would be, obviously encouraged, and men would probably be willing to take more. I mean, definitely the precautions, knowing that it's no. But I mean, again, if we were the ones who got pregnant, we would need to take precautions to ensure that we didn't get pregnant during intercourse. So I don't know. I mean, again, this whole hey, what if we had vasectomies and that would just solve the problem? I mean, those are very expensive. Versus, I don't know. I mean, I know birth control.
No, they're not.
Is definitely less a year versus what men would have to do. For a process that would be
vasectomies
long term.
They're not expensive. Vasectomies aren't expensive.
I've had a vasectomy. It's very expensive.
How much did you pay for it?
It was close to somewhere around $1,000.
And then your insurance paid for it.
Well, maybe it is. I'm saying, but I mean, vasectomies. Yeah.
So,
then plus
so
again, then if you want to change it,
hold on, hang on a second. Hold on, hang on a second. So, do you believe? Can you tell me a law in America that tells men what they can do with their bodies when it comes to medical decisions?
Not off the top of my head, no.
I'll give you a hint. There is none. So why should there be laws telling women what to do with theirs?
Well, no, but are you also asking the women who also are against abortion? Are you asking them?
I'm asking you a question. Why should there be laws telling women what to do with theirs if there's no laws telling men what to do with their bodies?
It's because the body they're killing is not theirs.
Don't say that again. Okay.
I'm sorry. Unaliving. Unaliving. The body they're unaliving is not theirs.
But it is theirs. It's their body.
No, it's not. Baby's separate from the mother.
It's their. Okay. Well, I'm going to bring a woman up. You can talk to a woman about this. Okay. Because I'm sure they would love to have that conversation with you.
Again, that's just medical knowledge, I guess. That's fine.
Well, actually, no. It's not medical knowledge. It's your opinion. So, Diva.
No, it's not my opinion. It's separate.
Excuse me, Diva. Our friend here would like to have a conversation about because he believes. Excuse me. He believes that women are vessels.
Yeah, I'm not a vessel. And number two, there is no other person, like say your wife needed a kidney. Do you think that they can come to you and say, you must give her your kidney to save her life? Again, or do you have to donate it?
I mean, there has to be donated. I do understand that as well. But again, we're talking about a human life here. Again,
your wife is a human life, and if you don't give her your kidney, she's going to die.
And I would obviously, I would do that. Obviously, yes. And I am yes, and I am an organ donor as well. But I'm just saying as well. I mean, keep in mind the baby's separate from you. It's not. I mean, again, when you decide to abort the child, basically what you're doing is you're not.
Fetus.
It's not a child. It's not a child.
Oh, well, okay. Tell me the species that any other woman's ever had that wasn't a human being.
It's a fetus. We didn't say it was a human.
Which is a human being.
It's a clump of cells
up until the first several weeks,
At
it's
this
literally a
stage.
clump of cells.
Stop interrupting her, Huckleberry. Okay, she's
No,
talking. You didn't.
well, I have to correct her. That's the problem.
No. You don't need to correct
No,
her.
no, I
Nobody.
have
Nobody.
to because you're
No, you
not
don't.
doing
No,
it. You're
excuse
not
me.
doing your
Excuse.
job.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I'm sorry. This is how this is going to go. Okay. You don't come in here and try to set the rules. If you would like to have a conversation, I brought a guest up who happens to be a woman who happens to have a uterus, who's happened to given birth. She knows more about it than you do, than I do, than Anthony does. You didn't interrupt me when I was talking, so don't think you're going to come up here and interrupt my guest who happens to be a woman. Are we clear, Huckleberry? The conversation can continue if you can follow those rules. If you can't, then you can leave. Fair enough? You can unmute.
You can unmute if you know how.
Huckleberry.
Huh. I mean, you can. I
Thank
mean,
you.
if you want to kick me because I'm making too many good points, I do understand
No,
that.
you're not making. Did you hear what I said? Those are the rules.
No, I did
You
hear
haven't
what you
made any
said.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let her talk without interrupting.
Okay, but what if she needs to be corrected?
It's not your job. You're not my
It's not your
father. You don't need
job
to
to
correct
correct
me.
her. Just
No, it is. I
who do
mean,
you
again,
think
that's
you
why I came
are?
on here, just to kind of to obviously correct her and anybody else that thinks that
It's
abortion is a
not
good
your
idea.
fucking job, idiot. You're done. Fuck you. I apologize.
No, no.
Sorry.
You said it before I could because I was about to go there. I'm like, I'm absolutely not.
My God.
The fucking caucasity of that Christo-fascist cis male white asshole to come up here and, sorry, Diva, to interrupt Diva or any other woman or feel that he has any right to tell a woman what to do. My wife is literally 25 feet from me. You know what she came up and said, Diva? This guy's a fucking idiot.
Yeah. I was trying to be nice because I was going to try to have a conversation. But then he was like, well, I need to correct her. And that's why I lost it. I'm like, well, you're not my fucking father. So you don't need to correct me.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, M Quail 1021. You make an interesting comment. You're not my father in quotes, but then claims she doesn't value men's opinion in this. So M Quail, you're just as guilty. We don't need your advice. Diva does not need your advice as to how to understand the nuances of this conversation. So you can, the door is behind you. You can leave too. Again, this conversation is just, I apologize, Diva, that they had to deal with that, but that's one of those things that you're used to. So I'm again, I'll bring somebody else up though.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll be happy to have the conversation with someone who's not going to try to mansplain me on being a
Yeah.
woman.
Guys, good.
Hi, Killian. How are you tonight?
It's good to see you again, buddy. I'm doing
You as
good.
well.
Just listening to you guys talk and making some very interesting points. I'm quite enjoying it, to be honest. So I'm gonna bring something up that happened to my sister, and it kind of goes back to the gentleman that was just speaking earlier. My sister, when she was 16, something happened to her. You all can kind of guess what happened. I don't want to say it on here, but something terrible happened to her.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
She's a strong girl and she has a strong family, and we're here for her, and she got through it. It actually happened to my mom when she was 16 as well. And at the end of the day, hearing these people use religion or whatever the things that they talk about to try to justify why that's a child, that's this, that's that. At the end of the day, it is a clump of cells, and the rights of women should not be dictated by anybody but the woman herself. The rights of other women can't tell another woman what to do. Only that person can make that decision. And the fact that they're trying to dictate what they can and can't do with their bodies, but when you tell them, hey, you have to get a vasectomy, oh, no, it's too much, it's this, it's that. It's tit for tat. It's either it's good for both sides or it's not for either. You can't have it one way. It has to be both ways. And you can't just sit here and tell, because of my religion, because of what I believe or what I think, or you're killing someone. You're not killing someone. You're making a choice for your life. That's what Planned Parenthood literally is. Planned Parenthood, planning what you're doing. If something happens and you get pregnant and you can't afford the baby, you can't, it's going to put you in a situation where you're going to be homeless. You're going to be living out of your car, or God forbid, something that happened to both my mother and my sister happens. You should have the right to be able to choose. You shouldn't have to drive to 5 states like my sister had to do. You shouldn't have to, go and be afraid that you're going to get beaten at the door when you go inside.
It should be something that you're allowed to do and not feel judged or ridiculed like in the other countries that I've lived in that you can do. And it just frustrates me that this is where we're at in the United States. I mean, it's shocking.
Well, it's because of one particular party. It is
I,
not because the majority of people in this country feel this way. It's the Christo-fascist people on the right side who want to shove their religion down everyone's throat and make laws in this country based on their religion.
and there should be no religion in our laws. I mean, our founding fathers said
Right.
it. How many times do we have to yell it on the rooftops? Religion should have nothing to do with our laws. Our laws are separation of religion and state. I mean, this is, what they talk about. They love this country. They love everything. Blah blah
No, they
blah.
don't.
But no, they don't. They don't follow any of the rules. They only
Yep.
follow the rules that fits them. It's just like the Bible. They pick and choose what they want that makes them work for them and makes it work for them. And it's just outright frustrating and ignorant to me, that they do this. On top of that, the Bible that they follow is just a copycat of Egyptian religion from 2,000 years before they even existed. So it's kind of foolish. And I'm a science-based guy. I follow, science. I follow facts. I don't follow this. I mean, it's almost like a fairy tale to me, to be honest. It is a fairy tale. It's like
Do you
going to Disney.
remember Do you remember when Obama was president, the right screaming that if he became president, we were going to be living under Sharia law,
Yeah.
and we were going to be under this horrible Sharia law because he was actually a Muslim, even though we all know he wasn't, which it wouldn't matter if he was, but
It wouldn't matter if he was, but
but they were
exactly. Yeah.
screaming about Sharia law, and yeah, look what they're doing. They are
Right.
making it even worse than that. I call them the American Taliban because they are
Yep.
no different than I call them Talibangelicals because there's no difference between the Taliban and evangelicals in this country right now.
I mean, I agree with you 100%. We have that and neo-Nazis. I mean, I lived in Germany for a bit in Constance. It's illegal to Nazi stomp in Germany. You can't do that. It's not okay. You'll go to jail.
Yahtzee, if you don't mind, Killian,
Yahtzee,
please.
I apologize. Yes,
It's
Yahtzee,
all
I
good.
apologize. Yeah. And look at what's happening here. Like, I mean, it's where I'm at is a really rough area for that. Like, it's like they have marches through the streets not far from where I live. Like, it's gotten worse since 2016 to now, since everything that happened with Trump. And it's just like they hate Obama, they hate all this, they think he brings all this, like it's going to bring evil into our land. They are the evil in our land. They are what they're fearing so much to happen. It's their ignorance. If they went, what's so funny is the way they believe. I've lived in Turkey. Some of the parts of Turkey are, more how it's. I call it Alabama. Part of the Turkeys I've been to, I call it the Alabama of Turkey because the way they believe is, women have no rights. They do some pretty horrendous things to women there. I've seen it firsthand. I've been in fights and almost went to jail because of it. Turkey is an amazing place to be. There's a lot of parts in Turkey that's very, very, they're ahead of the times, but there's parts of it that are not. They
Mm.
say they're so afraid of all this, but the truth is, it's just, I don't even know what to say about it, honestly. The ignorance of it all, their fear is that America is going to become something it already has because of them. We look ignorant to everywhere else. We look ignorant to the world right now.
Yes,
It's very
and
well said, Killian. That's very, very well said. I want to give it Monster a chance just a second, but something you called out, Killian, I think, and the America that they say that they don't want, they're the ones that have created it. And that's the irony of the whole thing. So,
It really
Monster,
is.
thank you for your patience. I really, really appreciate that. What's on your mind tonight?
All right, how you guys doing tonight?
Very good, brother. Very good. How are you?
Good, good. So, love all the topics so far. I've been listening since I got out of work, so I'm just kind of sitting here, just chilling in the parking lot as my car warms up.
Cool.
But the mandatory vasectomies, going to that, I've kind of been on a journey for the past year when it comes to someone very special to me. We're actually going to be on our 1 year anniversary next month.
Cool.
and
Congrats.
and thank you. And she has two beautiful kids.
Okay.
They're both two, and I love them dearly. And their father decided not to be there,
And it was one of those situations where, and I tailor it to being in like a really old school family where they kind of teach you like blood is your family. So like for the longest time, I was like, I've always wanted to be a dad, and and I've been kind of conflicted. Whereas I treat them like my own, but they're not blood. And we've had this conversation where when she was having childbirth with both of them, she almost passed away, and she was scared that because I wanted a child of my own,
Oh,
that I wouldn't care as much. And if you asked me a year ago, maybe I would have said something different. But honestly, right now, I'm kind of content with it. And if she felt safer with me having a vasectomy, honestly, I would probably go through with it.
so are you saying that you're nervous about wanting to have a child of your own just because of what happened to her? Is that what I'm hearing, or
Yeah,
is there more to
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
Because like I said, I've always wanted to have I've always wanted to have a child of my own. But seeing that she already has two kids, I mean, I already feel like a dad already. I mean, I make them breakfast, and like I love them like they are my own. I don't care if they're not technically my children; they're mine.
They
I
are.
love them so much.
They are your own. They are your own.
And
It takes more to be a father than just being a sperm donor. So as long as you take care of those kids, because I'm going to be honest with you, I have to say this a little bit quietly, but I have a sperm donor, and I'm sorry, my dog just went crazy. I have a sperm donor who I would rather have a father for my youngest kids. So I don't think it matters one iota if they're your quote unquote blood, because blood does not make family, because I have a lot of blood family that I am no longer close to. And just because they're blood doesn't mean anything. I have other people that I'm very close to that I'm not blood related to that I still consider family. So it doesn't matter one bit.
I agree. And then if you look at the chat, Monster, while you were saying that, you got a lot of people that are sending you a lot of love and props, including myself. To Diva's point, it takes so much more to be a father, and I think everything you're telling us, you're proving it. So again, I understand the circumstance. It's a conversation for you to have with your partner about whether or not you guys want to try for more. But um, you got a full life, right, bro? You got people who count on you, and you love them, and you're giving everything you have to them. Um, it's your life to live. Please, I'm not. I'm just from my perspective, what I hear, you're doing everything right, bro. Everything right.
I appreciate it with
Monster,
everybody's saying too. Thank
monster,
you.
are they twins? Are
They
that's two?
they they are.
Okay. Well, that could have complicated her delivery to begin with, because my youngest two are twins as well. They just turned 10. Definitely way more complicated than my two single births. So I'm not saying that she or you should try to talk her into having another one, but that is another wrinkle because twins are a whole different level of
Yeah, I just don't want to put
medication.
her in jeopardy. God forbid anything bad happens, because there's a running joke in my family where normally we have twins and it's skipped the past few generations, and now everyone's looking at me, and I'm like, oh Jesus.
But I think you're doing a great job. I think
I
as
agree.
long as you love those kids and you're there for them and you treat them with kindness and with love and look at them as your own, they're your kids for all for all purposes, you
Oh,
know.
Totally
absolutely.
agree. Totally agree. I mean, good for you, man, for doing that. And you can always adopt, but they're yours. They're your kids. They're your babies.
I was
You're
gonna
doing
say
it. You're doing it right.
calling me right now, so I'm gonna hop off here now. Thank you
Thank you.
guys.
You got it, bro.
Hi.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, it definitely takes, and I was going to tell Killian before Monster came up, the reason why we got Trump is because we had Obama.
Yeah.
The the Caucasian people were, especially the right Caucasian people, could not handle the fact that a man of color was over them, so to speak, was the leader over them. They could not handle it. If you remember, I don't know how old you are, but they would have marches in the street with people hanging, if you know what I
Yep,
mean,
I remember it.
and signs, and they could not handle the fact that a man of color was in power over them. And that's how we got Trump. He was their retribution for us having Obama for 8 years. Their racism was so obvious.
It is. It's just blatant racism. It's blatant ignorance, and it's hate mongering, fear mongering. I'm 30 now. You asked how old I was. I'm 30. I watched it all go down, and just to see, it did bring truth. The only thing it did do is it showed us the true colors of the people. They stopped hiding. I feel like they showed who they really were. What the hateful monsters behind those masks that people wear every day. You can actually see who they really are. You see it in the chats. You see it on the lives on here. And like what he says, you have to say the truth. I mean, there's the whole punch of Yahtzee, the old joke on that. I mean, we get to see who they are. They've revealed themselves, so at least we know who they are. But it's a sad truth to see where we're at right now.
Welcome, Kyle.
Hey, where do you live that you see Yahtzee marches?
Hey, Kyle, how's it going? Welcome. What's on your mind tonight?
Florida.
Well,
I don't live in Florida. I live
Do.
somewhere in the middle of.
He asked where the Yahtzee marches were, and I said Florida because they were literally
what
11
town in
miles from
Florida?
my house.
There was
What
a
town in
cult.
Florida? I want to see this here. I gotta research and find this.
There's videos of the police force. I think it was majority of the police force.
Orlando was one. So what's your? Did you have something you want to contribute to the conversation, Kyle? So what's on your mind?
Oh, I guess so. Lots. I mean, I guess I disagree with not really what a lot of you guys are saying, but the precipice of it, right? Like it started all the way back from
in the premise.
I did sound like a dumbass, didn't I? You got me good.
It's okay.
Touche. But my point is the I guess there's a whole lot, I guess, but to go to the most recent thing is I don't believe that narrative that most of the people in the United States are 71 million people in the United States are all racist monsters that
I'm not saying
dislike.
that. I don't think.
I am.
Okay.
If you still
So
support,
Here's
all that
here's
he's
the
done
thing.
and all that he's said,
Yeah.
then you are complicit in it. I'm sorry.
I agree. You have to be on the right side of history.
Yeah, that's the challenge, Kyle, that we have is that nobody likes to be labeled. So I need some clarifying questions. Who did you vote for in 2020?
I didn't vote. I did not vote. I would have voted for Donald Trump, though. To be honest,
Okay.
yes, I would have. Yeah.
What about in 2016? Did you vote then?
No, I didn't. Nope.
Okay, so are you not a voter?
Yeah.
Are you just not a voter?
I mean, I will now. I think
Okay.
to have. I don't know. I mean, I've just gotten to an age, I guess, where I've
what's your
been
plan?
involved or seen it.
Okay, so what's your plan on voting for this fall?
If the options are present, I wish it was Vivek Ramaswamy, to be honest. But if the options are present, Donald Trump, absolutely.
Okay, so when you say absolutely, so so what I'm trying to understand, Kyle, because when you said that it's hard to believe that 74 million people are racist or bigoted, but from where I look, what I'm trying to understand is where's the line for you? What could he do that he would not get your vote?
And let me say it this way: if I thought that Donald Trump was guilty of all the stuff that they say that there are constantly talked about, and see, this is there you go. I'll keep it simple, right? So I don't steamroll. If I thought he was guilty of that stuff, I wouldn't. I absolutely wouldn't vote for him for sure.
Okay, but
absolutely.
But he has been found. But he sexually abused a woman, Kyle.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so let's go. Let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah,
he wasn't. They literally did not let. They're appealing, and they literally did not let him present witnesses and stuff on his side of the case.
Hold on, guys. Hold on. Killian, just give me an opportunity here. Just 1 second. Okay, Kyle, that's just not true. That's just not true. Because if you follow the court case, you would understand that in a court case, both sides have an opportunity to present evidence. Donald Trump could have testified in his own behalf. He didn't. He could have taken a DNA test to prove his innocence. He didn't. Why didn't he do those things, Kyle?
I don't know. I don't know that was even an option from 40 years ago, whether they had that evidence to compare.
They did.
You're talking about the same Carol.
So this is my point. This is my point, Kyle, right? This is my point here, right? So we literally I asked you what your line would be, and you said if he was found guilty of anything, you wouldn't vote for him. Well, he was found
No, I said
responsible.
if I
Hold
believed
on.
it.
Hold
I
on.
said if I believed it.
Okay, whatever. I don't care if you believe it or not. It's what the evidence tells us. So
Uh,
again, excuse me, I'm talking. So
sorry,
I gave you an example
I
of
didn't.
how Donald Trump was found responsible under the law for sexually abusing and defaming E. Jean Carroll. And that's not good enough for you?
This is what I'm saying is that if Donald Trump was guilty of that, why is there not a criminal prosecution case where he is put into jail? Why does it
Because
have
it
to
was
be
a
brought
civil
down?
case,
Why does it?
Kyle. Because it was a
You see what I'm
civil
saying?
case, Kyle. Kyle, hold on, guys. Hold on,
I'm
please,
sorry.
please hold on. Okay, hold on. So, Kyle, it was
No,
a civil
absolutely. Yeah.
case. It's a civil case. You understand that? The criminal statute of limitations had run out. He constantly defamed her. This entire case was a defamation case. But because she had to talk about what the history was about the abuse, there was witness testimony. A jury decided that they believed her, but yet you don't believe her. Why is that,
Hold on
Kyle?
now. Hold on now. So
Answer my
just
question.
so we're all on the same, just so we're all on this, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. The reason I don't believe her is exactly like I said. What his
You know what? I don't care.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
You don't believe women. Next.
Yep.
Yep, I agree, 100%. I
Yep.
mean, honestly, it's shocking. Like, I think he was also trying to question the fact that there are not Yahtzee marches, which I can 100% show you videos. You can find them on YouTube. The town I live in, I don't really want to reveal that because it's a small town, and you can,
That's fair.
if you look up where there's a marches for those things are in a certain state. I can say I live in Tennessee. I can say that. You can find the videos here. It's not really hard to
Orlando.
find.
They had a bunch in Orlando too, I
They're in
think.
front of Walt Disney World. They were literally standing in front of the front gates of Walt Disney World and an overpass 8 miles from my house. They're everywhere.
And the
Starlight, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fine. I didn't really mean to push to come up live, but I just can't believe that people still can support a sexual predator and just a terrible human being. Why didn't we listen to all the people in New York the first time around?
Some of us did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's common sense, right?
Right. You're right.
I mean, these charges didn't come out of nowhere.
No, especially when you brag about it, about how as a celebrity you can just grab them by the genitals because they let you, and then ironically enough, that's exactly what he did to Eugene Carroll. Funny.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
And the thing that's most shocking to me are the number of white women that support a sexual abuser.
I know.
It's disgusting.
They turn a blind eye to it. And I've watched the repercussions of what it does to women, watching my mom, who grew up, and she's one of the strongest women I know, what it can do to someone that strong, to my sister. It just absolutely, to me, is shocking that any woman can stand up and go vote for him. Any woman can go and say he's a good man. I mean, the fact that he was questioning that he's not guilty when he's proven guilty, what more do we need? Everyone's turning a blind eye, I feel like. It's just, how can you do that? Like, really, at this point in time, it's 2024. How everything we've seen, everything he's done, it's like he talked about going and doing something on the streets. He could go walk up and pew someone on the streets. Is that what it's going to take for us to say we don't want this guy as our president? I mean,
They would still vote for him. I fully believe that they would still vote for him.
I truly believe you. I believe that they would, sadly, and that's.
Yeah, I mean, I've asked that question. You guys, David's seen this, and anybody else has watched my lives. I ask that question all the time, and the large majority say it doesn't really matter. I'll still vote for him. Doesn't matter. Doesn't care. They don't care. They don't care that he essayed a woman. They don't care that he stole a nuclear secret. They don't care he obstructed justice. They don't care he's a fraudster. They don't care about any of it. They just don't care. They'll still vote for him. That's a cult. Sorry to tell you.
No, you're right. 100%. I wish I had watched you before. I'm sad that I've missed. I'm glad I found you yesterday, but I'm sad that I've missed the rest because I I'm glad someone out there is saying the truth or speaking the truth.
Oh, I appreciate that, Killian. Starlight, anything else on your mind?
No, I mean, I didn't actually mean to come up live, but I
I'm
just
glad.
wanted to, I can't understand the psychology of people that can sit and watch the guy, just make fun of people and lie time after time after time. And it doesn't matter what news media that you watch. I mean, all you have to do is watch him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've also noticed, Starlight, that a lot of the people, especially the Trump people, when they talk to them and interview them, they were all very Caucasian, obviously.
Right.
But they're typically, even the way they speak, they're uneducated. They come from rural and poor areas, and I believe he makes them feel special. They feel part of something. They feel part of this, like this exclusive club, and that's why they cannot and will not see him for what he is, because then they would have to admit that they've been duped, and no one likes to admit that they've been duped.
Right.
I agree.
Friends, I'm going to make a request. I'm going to have you guys drop down because somebody's chirping in the chat. They want to debate one-on-one, so I just want to give them that opportunity. So I thank you all for jumping in tonight, though. I really
Can I
appreciate
say
it.
one thing before I go, real
Please do.
quick?
Please do.
There's a saying, evil prevails when good men fail to act. I feel like that when people are complacent, like you said earlier, that's when evil prevails. So yes, the guy said that, do we believe 72 million or how many ever he said are bad? If you're doing nothing, if you're not voting, if you're not trying to change and be on the right side of history, then yes, evil's prevailing right now. So
Correct.
Preach. Well said. Thank you, Killian. Appreciate
take care,
it.
guys.
Yeah, I watch you all the
Have a
time.
great night.
I give you a
Thank you,
follow,
too.
Killian.
Thank you, man.
Same.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you, Starlight. Thank you,
Bye,
Killian. Thank
guys.
you, Diva. You guys, I'll be here for a bit, but I just want to have this conversation because he's chirping away, and I don't want to expose you guys to it.
Can you drop it down?
I got you. So, Bowman, you were chirping. You want to debate.
You know what I fucking hate? Niggers. I don't like niggers. I don't like
All that. That's just, you wait in the chat and you request the debate, and that's what you do? Wow. That's just pretty embarrassing. I really feel sorry for you that your life is so empty and shallow and weak that you have to do that. Hi, Lisa. How are you tonight? Hi, Lisa. Lisa? Lisa Rogerson? Okay. Hey, James. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
Yeah. How good job, Biden, huh? 3 U.S. soldiers killed by a drone strike. That's great. What's that, 16 now?
Yeah, so where was your anger when 65 died under Trump?
Yeah. Ooh, really?
Yeah. Where was your anger then?
When was this?
65 died under Trump when Trump was in president.
Who?
65 soldiers.
Really? Where?
All over the place.
Oh, really?
Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen.
Yeah.
Where was your anger then?
Yeah. No, but
Where was it?
now you go. We're getting ready to hit World War III.
Where was your anger then, you coward? Where was it?
Dude, listen
Where
to me,
was your
right?
anger then, coward?
Listen
Hey,
to
coward,
me,
where was
right?
your anger then?
If you were in my face right
Hey,
now, I
coward.
would break your fucking jaw.
Really?
All right?
Oh,
You're a bitch.
I'm so scared.
You're a
Are you
bitch.
lonely? Are you lonely? Are you lonely, James? Do you need a friend? James, do you need a hug? Do you need a hug? Mods, don't mute his mic. You can unmute, James. Do you need a hug? James, do you know how to unmute your mic? There's a little button down below. It looks like a microphone, and you can just push it, and you can unmute your microphone. James. Are you gonna unmute your mic, James? Or are you gonna run like a coward? James, this is so embarrassing for you. You're gonna get owned by the liberal. Oh my gosh. Wow, James. James, are you going to unmute your mic? Or are you going to just stay and pout and scream and yell at the phone? James is such a man baby. You're right. Ah, James. James. In the name, James a runner. Poor James. Everybody give me an aw. Poor James. Poor James. James. He's a runner. Ballard, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing very good.
Excellent. What's on your mind?
I've been listening. All I can say is amazing that we really are this far gone as a nation. Like, I think it's kind of sad, but I would like to point out, I'm not here to pick any political sides, but I would like to point out we really got to ask ourselves as a country, though, how far have we come if we can let something like this be a deciding factor in our country? Like, we're talking about all this American. Like, I know we had different views. Huh?
Something like what?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. I know, like, the whole political debate, the whole why would people vote for somebody like Trump? We all know what he do. We all know the criminal activity. We all know how he talk. Like, he's literally looking in your face and cussing you out, and you vote for him. Like, where are we that we can be at this point? I'm originally from a country called Liberia. It's a small country, West Africa. There was a time when I was born. There was this guy named Charles Taylor that became president. His chant during his election that people chanted for him was, "You can kill my mom. You can kill my father."
Unalive, please. Unalive.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. "You can unalive my mother. You can unalive my father. I will still vote for you." That was the chant. These people chanted for this guy because he was a warmonger and he won. So how desperate, how sad, what is driving people to just not make sense? Like, what is it? I really want to know. I'm thinking about it from a curious background. I'm trying not to tell another human being that they're stupid or that they're ignorant or that they're lost. I'm trying to see what can drive people to this point. That's what I'm trying to understand.
I think people have made up their mind. I think that I've always said, I think people who've always been bigoted, racist, xenophobic, Islamophobic, transphobic, homophobic, it's always been there. We know that those things have always existed. I think people have had those beliefs, saw Donald Trump, the president of the United States, being outward about it and public about it. So they said, I guess I can be too. And they're gullible. They're low information. They don't bother to read. They don't care about the truth. They will hide behind lies. We know that over 70%, there's a recent survey done on Trump voters, over 70% believe the words that come out of Donald Trump's mouth to be true.
Okay, that's a fair point. And during the first election, I will believe everything you just said. But currently, I've been going online. I've been talking to people. There are people in inner cities, people who don't make no sense for them to be voting for Trump because there are people of color, people who livelihood is not what Trump is fighting for. But I've seen these people take on a Trump banner. I've seen these people talk about how they'll rather Trump because Democrat are complacent. Like, they're not doing enough. Like, I don't follow this enough to get that kind of view, but I've seen people who, during the first election, would have never voted for Trump, but now will rather vote for Trump. Why is that?
Again, I think it's the same reason. There's a narrative that's in their head. People just they don't care about the reality. They like the braggadocio. They like his bravado. They like his narcissism. They like that he makes all these crazy statements about all these things that they believe that they're lost. They're in a cult. They're in a cult. I don't know.
Okay, like I said, all of that applied to the first election.
No, it still
During that
applies.
time. Even now, but most of these people that I'm talking about, like I said, these are the people who are against Trump at first. Why are they switching sides? And my theory is it had less to do with Trump and more to do with his opposition.
I don't think they are switching sides, though. I don't know where you're getting
I seen a decent amount. I live in this community, people who we were scared during the first election when we said, no way somebody like this would be our president. Now these people are saying, I'd rather this guy be our president.
No,
So I'm seeing this in my community.
no, it's a bit anecdotal, Ballard. I don't buy that because if you look at the data, I mean, you have to look at what's happened from 2016 to now. I mean, Republicans are losing elections; they're losing electorates year over year after year after year after year. We now have so much data that tells us that the point you're making is very
Okay, that's fine. Like, we can always go with data. Data is taken from a bigger pool, a bigger nation. I'm saying it from my point of view. like what I see around my community. And in this country, another thing too, the whole idea that we put so much power into the presidential election, but nobody ever talk about their senators or their governor, the local governor. Like, that's idiotic to me, but that's a different story for a different day. I'm just saying, for my representation, I see a lot of people switching sides. Don't know why. The same people who are afraid of this guy at some point are now saying they want to rather him.
I think you're wrong, man. It's anecdotal. The data tells us exactly the opposite of what you're saying. So
I really don't think so, but I really think this whole.
I appreciate what you think, but that's not what the reality tells us. You're talking about an anecdotal example. Like, the people around you are irrelevant. It's what the data.
No, I'm not just talking about the people around me. I said the people.
But you just said the people around you. Okay, he left. I have to jump, friends. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody tonight. I know that there was some friendlies in the box. I apologize. I'm not able to bring everybody up, but thank you for this really robust conversation. I really, really appreciate you all. As a reminder, we're in primary season now. Determine when your primary is. First of all, you can go to your state if you're not registered to vote. Are you registered? If not, go to your Secretary of State's website to make sure that you are. Find out where your polling places are. Find out what the time the polls are open. Can you vote by mail? What's your primary setup like? And please do that. I believe in democracy. I think that I would encourage everybody to vote blue, because I believe that there's only one party that truly cares about rights currently. But I want to encourage people to vote, because democracy is not a spectator sport. Thank you all very, very much, and I will plan on seeing you tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, friends. Have a good night.